Is it going to show it? I must have myself pulled up somewhere. Yep. All right. Welcome, everybody. I will give everyone a couple minutes to pop in here. I wish I was still biker, dude. So I have a situation, you guys, where I can't be transparent about it. We just aren't there yet. But I'm going to be able to grow the power stash back. So I'm excited. Something's changed, hopefully, that will allow me to grow the stash. Welcome, everybody. Welcome. As you come on in. Wait, how does RLJ do it? Like,
come on in.
yeah.
And it keeps doing it over and over and over and over and over and over and over.
Come on in. Hey, Elliot. Hey, just everyone on here, if you reply to Elliot, make sure you tag his name in that response.
He's legally blind.
Yeah, he is legally blind, so tagging allows him to read. Otherwise, yeah. No, I can't always grow the stash. I can't. So I have my day job, you guys, is full suit day job. So not a collar shirt, not I'm like going to court dressed, everything top to bottom. So power stash is not it is not a good fit. I wish. I really do wish. What I should do though, someone suggested that I for the podcast I start doing the Larry King, and I think I'm going to. That is such a good idea. Pinstripes and suspenders. I'm gonna have if you guys can't see somebody that we're talking about, it's probably because you need to change your chat from if you look on my screen here, look on this left side, change it from top chat, which is normally the auto selection, to live chat. Live chat will show you everybody. And it is a common mistake that I make all the time, and a lot of people make all the time. But changing it to live chat, you should be able to see everybody. And Art of Deduction. Art of Deduction was one of our true crime spotlights. We've done quite a few of them now, so I don't remember what week it is. But we covered him for one of our true crime creator spotlights. And is the camera off? It might be too far this way.
It is way too far that way.
Okay.
There.
Okay.
Yep.
But make sure you guys check out his content. So he is like Delphi expert, okay, and has so many connections to Delphi, and Delphi is another one of the main cases that we cover. I would say we cover it for more of a newscaster coverage. Yes, we do some sleuthing and digging, but Art of Deduction is more boots on the ground. So if you want that raw communication information about Delphi. He's a really great content creator to follow. So check him out and we will dig right in. So we just got done premiering another one of our shorter videos. We're still getting caught up from Thanksgiving. So the Thanksgiving videos are right around 20 minutes. So we do breaking news, 6 breaking news topics in our podcast and 6 case topics, true crime case topics in our podcast every week. And when we had Thanksgiving, as you could see, we had different backgrounds. We were at different places and trying to make it work with our schedules and stuff that was going on and everything. And we have much shorter videos. So that's the reason we're starting at 8:30. Otherwise, we will continue to do our normal schedule of 8:15. I think we have 1 or 2 more shorter videos that we will be premiering, and then we'll get back to our normal schedule. So welcome, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is the one and only True Crime Talk Show, brought to you by Thought Riot Podcast. All right. My name is Brendan, and I'm the bad cop, and the good cop is...
Me. Malia.
Yes. Yes. Good cop, bad cop. The bad cop is going to be the one that's going to mislead you. Like, I'm going to intentionally lie to all of you and try and corrupt your minds into my benefit. No, not really. But it sounded nice. But anyway, so we are on all the podcast platforms. We are on the major ones being Spotify, where we are in the top 15% of the entire application because of you guys. It is all because of you guys. So thank you all. You can find us on Google, Amazon, and Apple. And on Apple, we are actually in the top 10% of all podcasts on the application. So, if you prefer long form podcasts, you can also find us on there, but you're not going to get the same kind of interaction and communication and, the general fun that we get to have during the True Crime Talk Show as you are on YouTube. So even if you do watch the videos on there and you want to come and hang out on YouTube, make sure you do that. Give us a like, a rating. As you can see here, this is the rating button. Give us a rating. It helps us out a ton on these podcast platforms. And we're still working towards becoming full-time. Once we become full-time, the amount of content we're going to be able to do is going to be way more than what we're doing now. The quality of the content that we're going to be able to do is going to be way better than what we're doing now. So we are working towards that direction, and any help that you can give is always much appreciated, you guys. And when I say help, I mean likes and comments. That helps us out, I think, so much more than most things, because really the real problem that's holding us back is just the overall amount of subs, because we're new and we understand that, but we will get there, and we appreciate all of you for the help. The reason we're at top 15% in Spotify and the reason we're at top 10% in Apple Podcasts is because of you guys. So thank you all so much. You guys are all amazing, and you guys are all Thought Riot Podcast. So thank you. I forgot to shout out our original podcast, Thought Riot Podcast, True Crime and Criminal Culture, baby. So check that out. And we will go back to our thumb. Do you have any updates, topics, comments?
No. I think the first thing, do you want to get into the response video first?
The response video?
Yeah.
Like, you mean
yes,
the premiere
no,
that we just
what this?
Oh, this.
Jeez.
Yeah, okay, no, you're right. We should talk about that first. So we made a couple videos talking about Get a Clue, which I'm super stoked about, you guys, and the way that he responded to one of our videos. So we've talked about him a couple times, and you know, dude, Get a Clue is so funny. He cracks me up. Like his type of satirical humor is the type of funny I like. So I not only learn things listening to Get a Clue, but I am usually laughing most of the time. And we are absolutely going to try and use one of his smelly Swedish fish sound bites for the podcast, because that was like comedy gold.
As a
When he
sound
was,
bite. You're saying as a sound bite.
yeah, as a sound bite, that was comedy gold when he was talking about the FBI. You know, just so over the top. He's phenomenal. He's not for everyone, but everyone should check him out and see if he is the type of funny and content creator for you. And he's probably going to come at us because I called him a content creator. He really doesn't like that, but no, we appreciate it. He gave us a response video to one of the topics that we just covered the other day, which I appreciate so much. So I don't think I've said this much in the last week, but I like being told that I'm wrong. One of my favorite things is to debate. One of my favorite things is somebody being like, Brendan, you're wrong. And I think sometimes in like my career, sometimes it doesn't happen that often just because of how confidently I talk. Even when I'm like dead wrong, I am talking with such confidence. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So I appreciate Get a Clue. And I love that he was like, yo, Brendan, you're wrong, you know? Love it. So we wanted to touch on that. And yeah.
Yeah. So I really appreciated the response too. So essentially he, said he really enjoyed us and, liked us and he wasn't trying to come at us sideways, which I didn't feel that way at all. I felt like he was just disagreeing and he made me realize that we were wrong. I think we were wrong. So basically what he was responding to was that I
I
said
don't know if I'm ready to say
I
I was wrong, because I believe there's two different definitions. There
what do you mean?
is, well, I'll let you finish what you were saying before we get into it, because
Pl-
mine's going to include a tangent. So,
play him playing you. um so essentially it was me
yeah.
saying like, is the car evidence that good? Because I thought it was a little odd that we see so many requests for more on the DNA, which there's also an aspect there that they don't have something about the DNA, they don't have the IgG information, so that's why we're seeing them ask for it, because they literally don't have it. But what I was saying is, like, there's so much focus on the DNA that I just wondered, is the car like, 'cause, me thinking in Anne's eyes, like,
Hmm.
if I'm looking at this footage in the Discovery, okay, and it doesn't quite look like Kohberger, then I would want more. I would be like, "Well, how did you identify this as him?" Like, I'd be asking questions, which could be happening behind the scenes. I was just
Hmm.
curious. But then Brendan, you went on to say, like, "Well, the car doesn't matter." And he was like, "Nope, don't agree with that. The car matters."
Yeah.
And I agree with him.
Yeah. No, 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 no. And I think so. That's what I mean by two different definitions. The one thing that he made me realize is that I should have been better about explaining that, because yes, all right, Ian.
Yes, appreciate that, Ian. Yes, everybody, please like the stream. It helps
We
out a
appreciate
ton.
that. We appreciate that. Big time, big time, big time. But so what I was meaning is, when I said the car doesn't matter, I mean when I'm comparing each of the pieces of evidence side by side. So when I'm thinking about the evidence, I'm thinking about them as singular and separate pieces of evidence, okay? So when they're being presented to the court, I'm in my head linearly, like, trying to identify what piece is the biggest deal for Bryan and what isn't the biggest deal for Bryan. Because of Bryan's alibi, the car isn't doing much for him right now. So the DNA is the highlight. It is the most being talked about. It has the most biased approach socially from people, and myself included. You guys, I think I've said this a million times. Before we covered the DNA topics, I was somebody who was like, DNA is absolute. It's either you or it's not. And that is so out of this world wrong. You know what I mean? So when I'm saying that the car doesn't matter, I mean, currently the car isn't a big topic of focus right now. It is not a big topic of focus in the case. Whereas if the car got thrown out, the case would still have weight. Whereas I believe if the DNA got thrown out, what's left does not hold weight. But he's right. The way that I explained that was not beneficial because look, it is all important. Because if the prosecution ends up having more evidence around the car, not just those two funky, wonky pictures, how did that start playing?
Oh,
that's super strange.
Oh,
Yeah.
were they? Oh, is it muted? Okay.
Yeah, it's muted. But so if the prosecution actually has more pictures around the car proving he was literally in front of the house, proving that he drove right by the house, 6 times more times, whatever in a row, and they can prove he was there, tying him to that house and address. If the DNA fell through then, yes, the car matters. It all matters. Do you get what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like when I'm thinking in my own head linearly of what's the most important piece of evidence versus what's the least important, that's what I meant by the car doesn't matter. But it does. It all matters.
Yeah, and I like Hapsari's comment that the weight is on which evidence put him at the scene. What identifies him at the scene? Because whatever does is the biggest deal, which right now we don't really have too much on the car. I will say I know Get a Clue has been covering the car extensively, and I just personally,
that's like his expertise or something, right?
It is.
Okay.
And I haven't dug enough into the car to know because I didn't think there was that much on the car. But it looks like he has dug up a lot with it. So I'll have to go back to his previous videos that really dug into the car and his Substack, because his Substack's incredible. If you haven't checked out his Substack, for sure do.
Yeah.
But so he essentially said that the thing, okay. So the DNA is vitally important. And without it, all the circumstantial evidence probably would fall on its face. But if Ann Taylor's argument about the DNA is she can't prove how that got there, she can only say, well, it's trace DNA, it's easily spread around. We don't know how it got there. It doesn't prove he was there. And that's her argument. That's extremely weak. So he's saying, then all of this is circumstantial evidence and you need to steamroll all of it.
Yeah.
If that DNA doesn't get thrown out of court, which it probably won't, the STR compared to the buccal swab, the STR is going to stay in the case. I almost guarantee. So there has to be a way for her to completely discredit it. And if she can't, then all of the evidence is important. Like, very important.
Look, I think all of the evidence is important. I absolutely do. And huge shout out to Art of Deduction. We appreciate that. And people need to realize that the PCA is a legal standard that the judge signs. The context in the charges are key. They need to be able to proof it. And I am sure they do. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I agree with that.
And I just saw Sleuth. Yes, thank you, Art of Deduction, by the way.
Yeah.
And I saw Sleuthy
Yep.
Goosey join the chat.
I had Sleuthy
What's
Goosey
up?
pulled up there, and most of you already know who Sleuthy Goosey is, but if you don't, have we covered Sleuthy Goosey as a true crime spotlight yet? I know
Oh,
that
no,
we've
we need
given her
to.
tons of shout outs, but I don't know if we've actually covered her
No.
as a spotlight on the podcast. Yeah, we definitely need to do that. Yeah, Sleuthy Goosey's coverage in all things crime is absolutely incredible, and the charts and the way that you track the information is phenomenal. And I love that's some of the my favorite stuff that you put out because that's my weakest area, dude, is I am so
Mhm.
disorganized. Um, I'm great at think tank, deduction, things like that, but I can't be organized. It's just not me. And you're so organized with all the information that it's just incredible. Absolutely and totally incredible. So if you guys don't know who Sleuthy Goosey is, make sure you check her out. Um, but yeah, no, I agree with you, and I'm right there with what he's saying. I mean, all of it is relevant. I do think all of it's relevant, and I personally think that all of it's relevant because look, I know so many people believe that he was set up, okay? Whatever that definition is for you. When I say a lot of people believe he's set up, I mean that it could be the police working the case backwards to try and backfill the evidence because they believe he's the guy, which is terrifying that they believe Bryan's the guy, so they work a case backwards. That's just as bad as somebody fraudulently putting a piece of evidence at the scene, okay? Which that's included too with the setup. I understand a lot of people think that. However, that is going to get no traction in court. I mean, I would be blown away if Ann Taylor tries to take that approach in court. That is just not going to sell it. That is not going to sell it, in my opinion. What I think is going to happen is that I think Ann Taylor is going to approach it and rip apart each thread piece by piece, proving that these police officers didn't have the experience and the capability to manage and handle a case of this magnitude. And I do think that the prosecution sees this coming. I think they are expecting that approach, and that's why they're leaning on the FBI so heavily. I wouldn't even be surprised if the prosecution asked the FBI to go back to the house so that they can further tie them to it. And maybe they didn't do any further evidence gathering. They might just needed to they might have just wanted to reattach the FBI's buy-in into this case, because image is so important in a trial, you guys. Image can make or break a case. Bam. What?
Yeah, I don't know. I just don't know. I think they definitely did further evidence gathering. I liked your idea that maybe they were sending the FBI back. It was a theory that you said. I don't know if you said it on stream or not, but that they sent the FBI there possibly to test the acoustics for Bethany, not Dylan.
Yeah, we talked about that last
I
night
liked
actually.
that. Okay.
Yeah.
So makes me roll my eyes. They're talking about your sales pitch mode, your tangents. So one other thing that he said that I thought was a really good argument, and I didn't even get to finish the video. I tried really hard. I was literally listening to it as we were starting the stream. But one thing he said, and I'll finish it after the stream, but he said that Anne cannot allow the state to keep the car ambiguous, like that it could be him. It needs to be solid. Like it needs to be
Agreed.
him or not him.
Yep.
100%. 100%. Because he basically said that's all the jurors will need to legitimize the DNA.
Yeah.
That it could be him and his DNA is there. All right, it's for sure him.
Yeah. No,
It can't be ambiguous.
I understand where he's coming and what he's saying there, but my one concern is I don't think that they need to prove that the car was near the house for the jury to believe that he's guilty. I don't think so. And part of the reason of that is because of the commission of the crime and how I would do it. So if you guys are new, we did a video out there where I used my past experience, decades past experience of criminal type situations and how I think crimes would be done in this manner. And I gave the how I believe I would do it, you know, and it was super awkward, super uncomfortable just thinking about the crime in that way. But anyway, uh, and I would not have drove up to the house. I would have parked away and walked to the house. Now, Bryan Kohberger has a history of being a runner. I think
Yep.
parking a mile away from the house, never getting close to the house is no big deal. I think that is an easy story for the prosecution to pitch in a court of law. They can very easily push a jury into thinking that, okay, we don't have great pictures that confirm the car was at the house. That doesn't mean anything because the DNA's at the house and Bryan Kohberger is a runner and he could have very easily parked in this field over here and walked over to the house, and he could have very easily took this route that has no cameras that we believe he took to the house because he has pre-existing knowledge from stalking and he left the sheath there. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So one thing he also mentioned that I thought was really important that I highly agree with is that we may know that the DNA can have major problems. Like we haven't seen all the evidence yet, so I can't say for sure, but it's pretty clear that there's issues there with the DNA. It's pretty clear. Like I can be pretty certain, but not 100%. So the jurors, like he was basically saying Anne could explain it to the nth degree, and the jurors still may not get that because after all, it's DNA. It's I mean, look at what we're dealing with like in mainstream media and a lot of people that get really highly offended if you even suggest that the DNA could not be his, or it could be flawed, or it could have got there from some other means. Like his DNA is there, and to most people that means 100% he was there, he did it. It was on the knife sheath. You know what I mean? And it's that black and white to most people.
Yeah.
And I was one of those people.
Me too.
I was 100% one of those people. But after doing more research, I do not feel that way at all anymore. And after looking at other instructive cases about DNA, one's Bicca Barlow has literally worked herself.
Yeah.
I don't believe that anymore. I think there is a way that DNA can be at a scene and that person have never been there before.
I agree. 100%.
Or even know the person.
And not even that. It's not even that. And then I'll get to CH's question there. It's not even that, okay? It doesn't even have to be that it's his DNA at the scene. Since we did that recent video with Bicca Barlow, it is clear that the DNA, the standard, the percentage of match and likelihood of Kohberger's DNA being the DNA they found on scene could be flawed in itself. The entire thing could be flawed from that very testing point. With blobs, with issues with the alleles and some of those changes and how they might be creating their percentage of match on a partial instead of a full. I mean, there are endless ways that the Bicca Barlow and the what was that video that you talked about? What was it on that guy that we referenced?
It was the TED Talk.
The TED Talk.
Here, I'll pull it up real quick.
It's okay. It's okay. It's in that video.
It's important.
That's labeled Bicca Barlow. But so in that video, it shows how experts can come out and say, hey, this is a 90% match, or this is a 99.9998% match, okay? And then another expert from a different lab comes out and says, No. This is a 60% match. It's literally that big of a variance that we're seeing, you guys. So, how do we know? The only way that we know whether they're hitting enough points of what's that called? How many data points sets? There's a word for it. But when you're
Loki?
checking
The Loki?
maybe when you're checking DNA, some test on like 8 points, some test on 20 points, some test, which that affects the overall percentage. So just knowing that makes us need to understand, okay, now we need the chain of custody on this DNA testing. Now we need to know who tested it, how they tested it, when they tested it, what points they're checking, how many points should there have been, how many points were there. Like, all that work is so important. And I never would have known any of that unless we started digging into this DNA evidence.
Yeah, the TED Talk is really important. If you guys want
Here.
to see, definitely go to the Bicca Barlow video, because after watching that TED Talk, I was like, whoa. And his solution to all the issues with objectivity by DNA
It's an
experts.
expert idea.
Right.
Like,
He has a
incredible.
solution to their lack of objectivity. The people who read these tests, and it's just blind testing where they have no knowledge of the suspect. They don't have the prosecutor in their ear or investigators in their
Genius,
ear.
dude.
They don't know who the suspect is at all. They have no knowledge of the case.
It's
But
this here.
you guys, that's not how it's done right now.
Nope.
They have knowledge of the case. They have prosecutors and investigators in their ears, and they're not being objective. And
Yeah.
that is a problem.
Blind testing is such a great idea. And it's scary that we're getting so much pushback about it because we already use blind testing. It's called a lineup.
And when police
Now you just use that same
a witness.
theory with DNA, dude. Except the difference is we have our state, we have our DA, we have our prosecutors, we have our police coming in here who get to see the answers to the test before the test is given. It's causing problems. It is causing mistakes and issues and wrong percentages and all kinds of problems. And if you haven't watched this video yet, man, you guys got to watch this. I think we have 3 or 4 videos on DNA. Each of them covers a different area, a different point of contention with DNA. And CH said, Brendan, they have to follow the evidence line they used in the PCA. So, yes, you're right. If the evidence was submitted in court, they need to include it. You're right. So, I think what you're referencing is my comment about the car. And if that car evidence was dropped, what I meant to say is if we get into a situation in the case and the defense throws enough reasonable doubt at that car and what they're showing to where it is like it's not impacting the case, right? There is no hard concrete evidence proving it's him. There is no hard concrete evidence proving that they offered a fake picture. It's just stagnant information. You know what I mean? Where the defense is able to prove that, hey, this could be one of 100 cars. How are you proving it's Bryan? In that situation, it just wouldn't hold a lot of weight anymore in the case. So, but yes, once it's in, it's in.
I mean, I think if they don't follow their probable cause affidavit, I think they are kind of throwing mud on their own case. Or shadow, as you put it, CH. I do think so, but super sticker.
Yeah.
I was trying to log in on here so I could see it.
Bam. Eric coming in hot with that super sticker. All right.
Yes, thank you very much.
We appreciate that. But yeah, get a clue. Dude, I was so thrilled to see this response. The only way to have a thorough think tank, a debate, a conversation, a mind expanding conversation with somebody is to be able to be adult enough to conversate, right? Obviously, we're not talking directly to each other. We're talking to each other through video, but being able to be comfortable enough having somebody tell you you're wrong. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where a lot of issues come into play in, especially with this case, dude. When you have one person who's on one side of the aisle and another person on the other side of the aisle, it's like the second somebody says, "Hey, I don't agree," or "Hey, I don't think that's right," or "Hey, you whatever," right? Where somebody is saying they don't agree with the other person, a lot of people take so much offense to it. And the best conversation and progress and evolution comes when people are comfortable being told, "Hey, you need to check that information. Here's why." You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think it's great that he responded. Um and he did it in a super amazing way.
Mhm. Yes.
But he also believes that they changed, which I think this is a possibility too,
What?
that they changed the year of the car after they focused on Kohberger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think somebody that thinks he's guilty sh should be believing that too, because that's really, 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 really strange. The only thing that I can think in that situation that it's not that is if they sent their evidence, their photo evidence of the vehicle, and for whatever reason, it's an absolutely despicable copy, right? It is not good quality. It's blurry. You can't see much, and that's what was sent to the FBI expert. If it's something like that, okay, like I get how you could get that make and model wrong. You know what I mean? Everything's blurry. You're not able to see the line work very good. Yada 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 yada. But we don't know that, so we have to go off of face value as it stands.
Hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
so but yeah, you guys make sure you check out Get a Clue if you're
Yeah.
not already watching. Did he say anything else? Because I started to watch his video and I haven't watched it all yet. I'm going
No,
to
I was
though.
trying to finish it before we got on, but I couldn't because
Okay.
we got on here. So, but that's what I got right now from it. I mean, after that, he went away from us a little bit and went more into other things.
Mhm.
So, um, but yeah, it was a good video from what I've seen so far. This is a very specific question. Would the defense have any access to traffic cam from the 13th that could possibly show a white Lancia during 4 to 4:20 somehow not close to the house? I
Uh,
mean, hopefully they have access to all traffic cams in the area from
yeah,
that night.
that's one of my arguments that we started to bring up with the ENF that we haven't covered yet, like we haven't dug into that topic yet, is this is a college town, you guys. There should be an overabundance of
Mhm.
electronics, technology, cameras, audio, microphones. So, you know what's interesting? Hey, shout out to Corey.
Yes, thank you.
Also coming in with a super sticker. That's awesome. We appreciate you. Super glad you're here. Um, so another piece of technology that they're using that started in Chicago and New York and Chicago, New York, and St. Louis. It was Chicago, New York, and St. Louis. They are putting audio, they're putting microphones with all the cameras, and college campuses started adopting this after the big cities, but where they were having deaths and robberies and ODs and people sleeping in alleyways in between buildings, what they started doing is putting cameras up with microphones. So when something illegal was going on in the alleyway, instead of having to send an officer out there and pull those officers away from really important cases or really important crimes where they actually needed to go and be present, they would have the microphone and camera and be able to speak through it and say, "Hey, this is so and so with the Chicago Police Department. We have you on camera here. You know, you have 60 seconds to grab your things and get out of here." And college campuses started adopting that into their security systems. You know, those big blue booths or whatever that are all around college campuses, where if something is happening, whether it's, you know, someone with a gun or being assaulted, something like that, they can hit that button and that alerts that system. Well, I know in Arizona and California, they now have somebody actively covering the cameras and the microphones to uh to give further security. So long, that was a long way to get where I was going here, but um is there any possibility he's caught on any of those network cameras and things like that?
I don't know. I mean, I hope they're looking at, like, literally every camera in the area,
I agree. I
unless they have
agree.
something incredibly good.
One of my one of my uh oh, we won't look silly. We aren't gonna look still silly, STEM. You know why you can't look silly when you're talking unbiased about the case is because the second new information comes out, I just change my opinion.
Yep, because there's no problem with admitting we're wrong.
I mean, I'm not going to be right or wrong. I don't know because we don't have a whole puzzle, right? That's like somebody coming on here and being like, hey, here is 10 pieces of a 150-piece puzzle. Tell me what the picture is. I can talk to you about it and I can deduce and deduct why I think it's this thing based on the puzzle pieces I do have, but I'm not going to be able to get it right until I have all the puzzle pieces. And I'm quick to change my opinion. I could hop on here tomorrow and have a completely different opinion with more information.
Yeah, because there's nothing wrong with changing your mind or being wrong. Like, we're not here to be egotistical and act like we know everything. The whole point of the channel is to learn with everyone, to just use the
The
brains,
community is the smart one here. It's definitely not me.
to use the brains that, we all have in our head that are
Yep.
big and wonderful.
Yep. I know the only thing I know one thing in life, you guys, for the people that have been here for a while, already know where I'm going. I know one thing in life, and that one thing is that I know nothing. Absolutely nothing. So, um, but
Yeah, J Ray, there you go.
yeah, and exactly. And for me, you're so right, Jay Ray. And for me, it's not even about Kohberger. I couldn't care less about Kohberger, you guys. But one thing I am worried about is our justice system potentially being corrupt or going down the wrong path to a systemic corruption where it isn't an inherent upfront in your face making bad decisions corruption, but it's done in a way where over time what's it called, the working law, over time the working law has changed and changed and changed and changed to better fit the state and the prosecution and not serve the people. And those are the areas that you got to watch out for. You've got to call this, look, in my opinion, the hardest job in the court should be the prosecution. It should be. And it's not in a lot of situations. In a lot of situations, the hardest job is the defense. And that's caused defense attorneys to not be bought into their defendant and not give them a real defense. And it literally should be the opposite because our justice system was built around the idea of innocent until proven guilty. So
Yes,
the
so we don't have
defense,
witch trials anymore. That's the
exactly,
whole point,
bam,
is that we're not on witch hunts, burning people at the stake before
bam,
we have real evidence and real facts to be able to hold them accountable for what they did. Like, that
yeah,
is the whole problem that I have seen in this case from the beginning, is that it has been a witch hunt in the media, in the public, and I don't like that. I don't think
yeah.
that's okay. I don't think it's fair for them to dig up all of these anonymous tips about this guy and paint him to be an incel when we don't have anything factual to back that up. And anytime
Agreed.
anybody brings up something to be like, well, yeah, well, we have this. Well, it's really word of mouth. There's nothing factual. There's nothing that's like, yes, he was hateful to
Yeah.
women. Now, I will gladly accept him being guilty.
Oh, for
Gladly.
sure.
I
I
will
want
be
him to be.
so happy
Yep.
if he is proven guilty
Yep.
without a shadow of a doubt. If that happens in court, I will be ecstatic because that means justice for the
Undeniably proved guilty. Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
that means justice for
Absolutely.
the victims, justice for their families who are going through so much right now.
Mm-hmm.
And, his family can start to move on and heal. And he gets accountability. No, Elliot, we can see your comments. I did want to,
I
Brendan
don't
keeps
know.
going on tangents. So I did meant to say earlier, I did see that video by Get a Clue. And the whole time I was like, I think like man-eating worm, like parasites got in his brain or something. And then
What?
at the end, I was like, oh, yeah, okay, that was super funny. About BK getting out by
Oh.
Christmas. I don't think
Oh.
you've seen it yet.
No, I don't think I
I
have.
was dying
I don't think
laughing
I
at
have.
the end, but I knew I had a feeling he was joking the whole time. Like I pretty much knew it, but in the same respect, I was like, did he lose his mind?
What?
Because
Get a clue?
he
So,
speaks so
yeah, dude. It's
convincingly.
satire.
I
Yeah.
know. The whole time I felt that way, but then like he speaks so convincingly. I
Yeah.
was like, oh.
Yeah. Don't ruin it.
I mean, Brendan just ruined it.
What? I've never seen it. How do I ruin it?
Because you just said that.
I said what?
Never mind. We won't talk about it anymore.
That all his content is satirical, that when you watch him, you need to watch him with the understanding that like it's satire, I mean, it's genius because it's not all satire. He's not giving you fake information. He's giving you real information with a satirical character. So, but yeah, I agree with you 100%. And like, there's even people on here, we have viewers on here that get a little bit offended when we say things like, look, I hope Bryan Kohberger is guilty. I hope he's the guy. I want him to be the guy. But it's because of the outcome if he's not, you guys. Just think of the outcome. If Bryan Kohberger is not the guy, then we have somebody out there in the world that at the drop of a dime can end 4 people. Not only that, we have 4 people that have been ended way too early. And then not only that, we have a 5th person that is on the line for somebody else's crime. Like, how could anybody think that's what we want? That is insanity.
So I see people saying that he's guilty until the trial starts and the defense has to presume he's guilty too. That's not how it's supposed to work. The state is supposed to be seeking the truth and working for the people, though it doesn't often happen that way.
You gotta give 2 definitions when you explain
I
that,
understand,
though,
but
the original and then the social.
Okay. But most often they are just worried about close rates, okay? Most often they are just worried about getting a conviction.
Yeah.
The defense is there to not prove innocence. That is not their job. Their job is to, if there's exculpatory evidence, obviously, fish that out and make it be presented, but to cause reasonable doubt in the case. That is their job.
Not reasonable doubt in the case. It is to defend their defendant.
That's
when you
very
say
general.
Reasonable doubt, it makes it sound like they're causing doubt in a situation where that defendant is guilty. But we presume not to know whether that defendant is guilty or not.
So essentially, it is they're there to defend their rights. Okay, their constitutional rights. That's most important. And 2, to pick holes in the state's evidence so that it upholds or doesn't. That's the point of the reasonable doubt. They're there to challenge it to see if it falls apart if it's outstanding evidence, if it can uphold scrutiny.
I understand what you're saying. It doesn't change the fact that when you say it like that, it gives off the impression that they are trying to poke holes in a case where the defendant is guilty. So that's
okay. So
why
how
I'm
would you
correcting
say it? You're
Uh,
not correcting it. You're just saying that's what I'm
no,
saying, but
no, I'm not correcting it. I think it's fine to say that. I'm not saying what you're saying is wrong. What I'm saying is there is a perception. It gives the image of this is what it is. When in a trial, right? The whole point of a trial here, going all the way back to the very beginning, is to find out if the defendant is guilty or not. The state believes the defendant is guilty, and the reason why they believe the defendant is guilty is based on the evidence that they have brought to the court, right? So the defense is there to defend their defendant against that evidence that the of the case that the state is presenting. So sure, if they're guilty, then the approach is to cause reasonable doubt in that case. If they are not guilty, then their job is to tell the truth and to make sure that their rights aren't being violated. So,
okay.
but but yeah, there was something I was gonna say, and I don't remember what that was now. Yeah, sorry if that's confusing you guys. One thing, because I'm a salesperson, because my career is sales, is no matter what, when I hear things, like when I'm talking with someone, I think I automatically look for what I believe the social perception of that statement will be. You know what I mean? Because clearly you guys know this, but you can say something a certain way and it gives a completely opposite perception of what you're saying than if you wrote it. You know what I mean? So, like, the way something is presented can change the meaning of what's being said. Um, but yeah,
um I understand where you're coming from with that, Mike, and I understand where people come from with like innocent till proven guilty is like it's a fallacy. It's a myth at this point. I
it
understand the
might
argument.
be.
It might kind of be, but I think that it is only because we allow it to be that
Right.
way.
Yep.
And that's why I think, criticizing law enforcement when they're doing something wrong, criticizing the justice system when something's going wrong. That's why I think transparency is important, because if we make these things important to us and the public actually cares about it, talks about it, criticizes, you know, um, holds them accountable, then it may not feel good. And I feel like police have had a really long time, pretty much the whole time they've been around, not being criticized as much as they are now and have been for the past few years since the pandemic. Like now, I feel like and maybe I could be wrong. Maybe there's some other times in history that I don't know of where they were heavily, heavily criticized in the United States. But now seems to be a time where it's pretty extreme. Um, some people even calling to like defund the police and stuff. Well, I don't believe in that. I think that it is important that we hold them accountable, and it's going to be really uncomfortable, but it should be done.
So I agree with you. And actually that isn't true. You know what's interesting, you guys, especially when we're looking at something from a court perspective, how when you say something, how it's perceived is what you're saying. You know that Eminem song that, like, I am whatever you say I am? That is how the world works. That is how court works. It doesn't matter what you're saying. It's how people are taking what you're saying. That is what everything means. And that's why I think it's so important to explain, like, the two different opposing theories, two different sides, two different ideas, because what you're saying is what everyone's hearing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I feel like that argument could almost apply to Mike's argument, and that the reality of it is not what we're like. We're saying that it's innocent till proven guilty, and it's almost like this belief, but the reality doesn't reflect that. So maybe you're right. I don't want it to be that way, and I don't want to support it. You know what I mean? I don't want to. Me as an individual, I can choose to not be a part of that. You know what I mean?
I I don't.
convicting everybody that
Oh, so from justice. Okay, I got you. Yep.
I
I took
cannot
it wrong what you were saying.
yeah, I cannot be a part of convicting somebody before the
Yeah.
evidence is presented.
I thought you were still talking about the perception of what you're saying and not taking part of that because there's honestly nothing you can do around that.
No,
It's
there's not
just
much.
what people believe you're saying is what you're saying, unfortunately. And it's just part of it. And what that was making me laugh, what Elliot said here. So I swear, if I recorded my partner and I when we're in deep debate-esque conversations like you all have, and we get frustrated with each other, it sounds just like you. It just like us two. Yeah. But
Yeah.
we aren't frustrated. This is just like status quo. This is just how I talk, you guys. Um, and I did it cause issues when we first started talking, like ever? Maybe.
What do you mean?
Like the first debates we've ever had, did it cause issues because I'm so bought into what I'm saying?
Oh,
Do you
yeah.
remember?
Yeah. I
Yeah.
was annoyed with you for sure.
Yeah, that makes sense. That
You
makes
get
sense.
used to it though, and you realize it's not I think intention matters there, and also the fact that sometimes the way someone acts isn't about you at all, but you can really make it about you. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I feel like there's a lot of people that take you that way just because of like people in their lives that have hurt them or something that speak similarly.
Yeah.
That
It could be
it
that.
I think it's a trigger thing, honestly.
Yeah, but I also do think that when I'm talking about a topic that I believe in, I don't know how to turn this off, you guys. This is just me. Like how you're seeing me is not me putting on an act. This is how I talk 100% of the time. This is just it. And it's super funny because so many people have left comments where they're like, "Hey, this feels like disingenuous. Like it doesn't feel like you're being authentic. You should not try to put on an act and you should just talk normal." This is
Yeah,
normal.
you talk really loud. That's a good point, CH. He, like, yells.
It could
I'm
be.
over here like,
Yeah,
"Ugh."
it totally could be.
Blame the media, not law enforcement. I
I
mean,
agree with you. I think that's one area that we see different on is I approach most situations trusting the law enforcement until they give me a reason not to. But yeah, I think that I feel like there's so many different areas of our justice system right now that need to be reworked in order to fix this issue, you know. And for a long time, we've had this idea that like we're leading the world, which we are. The US is one of the greatest countries on this earth, you know what I mean?
mhm.
But it doesn't mean that we can't take opinions and ideas and whatever from all these other countries. I think there's a lot of other countries out there that manage their media in a much more effective way when it comes to their justice system.
You know, I actually heard Grizzly True Crime talking recently about how, which she's incredible. She was talking about how, like, she's from South Africa,
Mhm.
and she said it took her like, what did she say? It was like months to get her birth certificate, if not like a year, maybe. I can't quite remember. But she said that a lot
A
of the
year.
world, a lot of the, yeah, she had a really hard time getting her birth certificate. And she said a lot of the world is that way. And America has such incredible transparency, and she's like, "There's, like, nowhere else in the world like it." And I was just
That
thinking,
we have transparency?
compared to, the rest of the world, yeah.
What?
With our legal cases and with our documentation and, you know, the way our system works, that we are much more involved and know more about it than most countries do.
What?
Tell me another country that does except for, like, Finland
I I I think most of
and
Europe,
Sweden.
but I'm confused, I
No,
think, what you mean.
not most of Europe.
Okay, so I need clarification because I don't understand what you're saying. So, are you trying to say that we give out more personal information for people that are involved in these cases?
Personal.
Yeah, like you're saying that we're more transparent. Transparent in what way? Are we more transparent in our court cases around the details of the defendant and eyewitness statements, things like that? Or like in all of our legal cases?
D I didn't say that. Grizzly True Crime said that, so I don't know
Oh.
why you're asking me.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
not from South Africa.
Oh, okay. Well, I thought you
That
just said
was
you agreed with it.
no,
So I'm trying to
I didn't.
understand what.
I didn't say I agreed, I said I thought that was interesting
Oh,
that she
okay.
said that because it's hard to know as an American who hasn't lived in other places, that how their legal systems, how their, government systems work, and if they are as transparent as ours. I think that what she's saying is mostly true, except for maybe like the Nordic countries, because it seems that Sweden and Finland have a lot of transparency in their government, even maybe more so than ours. But yeah.
Yeah.
I think that because I know that, like, I'm pretty sure Germany, France, like, a lot of them, it's not as transparent as us. I'm pretty sure. And
I don't
even the
know.
UK, I
I'm
think
gonna
the
do
UK
some
is not
research
quite as
because
transparent, but they're pretty even with us.
there's a statistic out there where we covered this from a political standpoint, the secrecy around our justice and politics, and we are by far the most secretive.
It depends on what you're talking about, I'm sure.
Well, unfortunately, politics is our
She
justice
was talking
system.
about
Like,
true crime, I think.
yeah, I'm just confused, I think.
There's a lot of cases like, that have a ton of information comes out right away, like a ton.
Yeah, I
There's
don't.
just these oddities like the Kohberger case where they make these choices. It depends on the, lead
Yeah,
investigation, the agency that's over it. It depends on the state. Like, it depends on so many things whether you're gonna get very much information or not, you know?
yeah, yeah, I
But
gotcha. I just feel like she must be talking about something specific is all,
yeah, we have
Yep.
cameras in the courtroom. I think that we are compared to most of the world, for sure.
See, and for me, it's just a little bit different because I don't need cameras in the courtroom. I would be okay with I believe we should have cameras in the courtroom, but that doesn't mean that I need cameras in the courtroom to get information. I can get the same information from a camera that I can from a report that is confirmed as true. Is all I meant by that.
Yeah.
But you're right. I think that cameras would help with a lot of our political justice distrust in those systems. I really do, because
Hmm.
I think that even if we had court documents coming out, there would be people who would read those documents and say, "You know what? I don't feel like this is exactly what happened in there." I I don't know if I would be that person, but I think that a lot of people would do that, whereas a camera in the courtroom takes away that ability. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So,
for sure. Citizens in Europe, thank you, Michael, for saying that. Citizens in Europe can't get evidence prior to display in the proceedings, no public discovery. Interesting.
yeah, I think I think as long as we get it, I would be okay with that.
Thank you for the $10 super chat, Kimmy. I don't see a better way to do it. Security and safety of community is number one. There honestly is more than there isn't in law enforcement. If that wasn't the case, we would be in a lawless hellscape. Yeah, dude, I'm definitely not an anarchist in any kind of way. I like my comfy life in America, okay? I do
Yeah.
like it. I like feeling mostly safe. And these situations mostly being a one-off occurrence, where it's pretty rare that it'll happen to you statistically. Um, so I support law enforcement a ton. And I did see Kimmy arguing in the chat a bit like, you know, it's the best way to do it is if you have evidence that somebody committed a crime like this, that they should be locked up. There's no other way to do it for their safety, for other people's safety, to make sure. And I agree, like, I do think that. I do think that they should be in jail. If they have evidence that somebody committed a homicide, yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you. I
But I
agree
think
with you.
that's why I like that Indiana is trying to move towards the more open PCA that includes most of the evidence where it's like it even includes evidence where it doesn't look good for the state's case against the defendant to make it more encompassing. That is a wonderful idea because I mean that gives because the judge isn't going over all the evidence. I saw that on the Defense Diaries channel, Bob Mata, and he had somebody on that was talking about how Indiana's trying to go towards that, and I think that would be incredible.
Yeah, I mean, we just talked about that last night. I absolutely 100% believe that that's beneficial. And remember, I gave that example of like having a video of someone coming in your house and them robbing you, and then having your neighbor come in, but you choose to only give the evidence of your neighbor. Your neighbor still looks guilty, even though there is evidence proving your neighbor isn't guilty. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
And that's really important. So
Mhm.
I agree. I think PCAs should include all evidence, maybe include all the evidence of whether it is tied to the defendant or not, and maybe keep that section separate. I don't know. I would need to look into it a little bit more to make my determination on what I think it should be. But I do know that the current system around affidavits, arrest warrants, or whatever, I think is too lenient.
Yeah.
I don't think it's fair. I
Yeah.
think it's easy to get a case that has been worked backwards. So,
So, do you
yeah.
wanna get into the actual, content, the premiered video, what you wanted to dig deeper into?
Yeah, I gotta go to the bathroom first, though.
Okay. So, I'm curious if anybody can because I saw Blackthorn say the problem with making evidence public before trial is it biases the jury pool. You definitely won't get a fair trial. Uh, what is what is the argument there that people that truly believe that if they put the evidence out there, everybody's going to be so tainted, there's no way you could possibly get a fair trial. Like, what is the argument there? Why? Why does that mean you will not get a fair trial? Because as I see it right now, Bryan Kohberger's evidence was put under seal, and I still am not 100% sure if he's going to get a fair trial. I feel like the jury pool has been tainted by the media heavily. Heavily. Yeah, it is detrimental. It's not good, but that's why I almost feel like putting everything out there and having, just like people, not the media, hammering and character assassinating somebody is better, but I don't know. I could be wrong. Hmm? Yeah, there is a two-tier justice system in America, Mike. That's for sure. I mean, I think it's possible the jury's tainted right now. Get a Clue said he's going to highlight 2 potential jurors soon. I'm curious about that, what he means. I just wanna see somebody's argument about, like, why all the facts and evidence, like, being transparent taints a jury pool.
Because it's one-sided. We don't have unbiased coverage.
That's my main point, though, is, like, it is the media that hammers in, like, one side. That's the problem.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so what are we getting into?
the main point.
Oh, okay. Yep.
My only point though is they weren't transparent about all of BK's evidence and everything, yet they still did the same thing. It was still one-sided even without all of the information.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I was asking people to argue why not to be transparent, how not being transparent helps
I mean,
not taint a jury.
there's little things you can do, like that case we just covered. We just covered a case. I won't go into the names or anything, but another country doesn't include their name.
Hmm?
There's a country out there that when they're going to trial, they don't include the suspect's
I'm
name.
pretty sure it's Germany and somewhere else. I remember looking at a case where they don't
There's
include
multiple.
they only include the first name and that's it, I think. But yeah, I
There's
don't know what that meant, Michael. I saw you asking like, "Do just Moscow residents?" I don't know. I was curious about that.
So I think something like that could help it. It's not something that, is beneficial for people that want to dig in and try and find out more about somebody. But in the grand scheme of justice, I absolutely would be okay with something like that. Or I think if we actually had more mainstream media and or news coverage um to give opposing sides of arguments, I think that would go a long way too.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
Yeah, Brendan is diabetic.
yeah, why? Were they talking about how
Elliot
much I use the restroom?
Yeah, Elliot was just saying maybe you guys are brothers from another mother because he has to pee as much as you do.
Oh,
And,
yeah, I'm
my
diabetic.
Kimmy said, "Well, or maybe you guys have diabetes."
I do.
He
I
does.
do. Yep. That's funny.
Oh, her too, that's why she knows.
Yep.
Yeah. Honestly,
Always thirsty and always got to go to the bathroom.
I don't have diabetes, but I honestly think I have some kind of sensitivity because I get some symptoms like that sometimes when I am eating too much sugar. I'll start like crashing and having similar symptoms. So I think I
Yep.
for sure have some kind of sensitivity.
Yep. Okay, so one thing I want to do is give a shout out to character analysis
Yeah.
here. So anytime we cover a video, we always want to give credit where credit's due, right? And again, this is a situation where I do not agree with her, like at all. I feel like there is some biased information here, and that's okay because we're all biased, myself included, and that's what we wake up every day trying to fight against is our natural bias that is in us. It's just part of the human condition. There's no way to get around it. But she does amazing coverage. And she was going over the possibility of Bryan Kohberger being the person that wrote the 4chan postings. But so the issue is she uses the posting that is the first person posting. The
Yeah.
posting about that horrible body parts hanging posting. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so I wanted to say real quick that I love character analysis. I think she's incredible. I've enjoyed so many of her videos.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that this is just a bit of a stretch. So yeah, she uses that really horrible posting where also it talks about the things hanging from ceiling fans, but it also talks about, I'm hiding in, a hole in Pennsylvania. Good luck finding me.
Yep.
So she uses that to kind of like,
To connect the
yeah.
4chan post, which those two posts are
What two? We only mentioned one. What two?
I thought the hiding in Pennsylvania was its own post.
No, it's
Oh,
all
okay.
one.
Then I'm wrong. I'm wrong on that. So that post is written in a first person saying I, me, come find me. And all the other 4chan posts are not written. They're talking about others from a third person perspective.
Yeah, the way the writing is changes so much in that post, and from the same date, none of the IDs are the
None
same.
of the IDs are the
So
same.
the original post, like, you see all the IDs from that date, and then you pull up that post, and it's totally different.
Look,
And even the times, like, it
lax
doesn't make sense.
7p, lax 7p, lax 7p,
We're pretty sure
lax
it's fake.
7p. So right around that same time and day, which I believe it is on 12/12. And someone correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure. I just didn't want to go digging for it right this second because it has stuff on there that I don't want to show on here. But it that ID, that anonymous ID does not match. It does not match. So if I had to make a guesstimate, the person that posted that for that post on 4chan is not the same person that's posting what we just showed. And the 4chan postings that we use for the 4chan theory. Right?
Mhm.
So now she goes on to further say that she believes that Bryan could be the 4chan poster because she thinks that when he writes, it has like British vibes to it.
Yeah, so yeah, and she said that based off of the word whilst.
Well, based on the word whilst, the CUN word,
No,
mads
no,
and
no,
fresher.
no. Specifically in this document that we're looking at right now, which
Well, when
hold
she's
on,
comparing it to
hold on. Let me
the
send you the
4chan.
good one.
Okay.
Let me
Yeah.
send you the good one real quick so we can actually read it.
Yeah. But so when I say those things, she's comparing these documents to what I'm just saying. And she said that there are words in this one that feel like it could be a way of like London talk, okay? And the 4chan posts also feel the same. And I think that it could be maybe, but it doesn't necessarily mean that either, because if you guys have ever hung out in the hood, okay, like kicked it with the homies, hung out in the hood, which it I'm not bragging about that, okay? So it's a good thing that she hasn't, if she hasn't, but you hear those same words in any hood in America, in any of them. So you got it.
Yep.
Okay.
I was just making sure I was sending you the PDF because I also converted it to a JPEG for like pictures of it. So
Gotcha. Mm, okay, there we go. Bam. Okay. Okay. All right. So,
Cheese It Champion sent a $5 super chat asking me to shout them out. Thank you
yes.
for the super chat, Cheese It Champion.
Yes. Shout out.
Oh, that's pretty cool, Elliot. Elliot said that in France, the defense members accompany the police to crime scenes to protect citizen rights.
That is incredible.
That is super cool.
It is incredible. The working law that we have, like what evolves in our court systems, um, it always seems to evolve to favor the state or the prosecution, and I think that's what we're trying really hard to combat in these situations, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's my goal, is to, focus on, as you guys know, those of you who have been here and watched us forever, it's all about our justice system. It is all about making sure that things are being done fair, that things are being done transparent. We're in this thing for the long term goals and outcomes, and you know, the only way you do that is calling these things out. And it's a shame that so many people look at what we're doing and see it as being like anti-police and justice system and everything. But to be honest, if I was anti, I wouldn't even talk about them. They wouldn't be in my mouth. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna pay any attention to something that isn't worth my time. And it wouldn't be worth my time at that point. So
Agreed.
okay, so going into this,
So, yep, this is Bryan Kohberger's application to Pleasant Valley School District as like what, a custodian?
I think so.
Custodian courier security officer?
Yes.
How do you apply for both of
Their
those?
custodians are also security officers
Oh.
and
Oh.
mailmen.
Oh.
Yeah.
Um,
Sounds like a fun job.
so she reads through this. I didn't see her say anything of importance right here, really, like towards the arguing that he uses like British language. Did you?
No.
No, it's really about this third page down here where he lists his professional, trade, business, or civic activities and offices held. You may exclude memberships which would reveal sex, race, color, religion, national origin, age.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's not him though.
So,
So he says
why did he list that in there though? I'm
that he
confused.
didn't. That's not him
No, I know.
writing.
I know that's not him writing. That's the category though. That's why I'm
Yeah.
confused this is listed here.
Yeah, these are skills.
But it
So
doesn't say
list professional trade business.
okay. Why
So
didn't they just say what are your skills?
I don't know. Maybe that's the only area in
It's
the
just
thing that
weird.
is asking for skills. So skills are really important to list on
Yeah.
any application. And I know I said this in the video that we premiered, but you guys, I've literally hired hundreds of people. I was a regional manager. I was a national sales trainer, and part of that included me hiring people and going through a million interviews and hiring processes. And one of the things that she talked about when reading this, and we'll go through it real quick here. So, Bryan Kohberger says, I am capable of what is considered pipe work. I can solder, attach pipes, and do some basic HVAC. I learned this from my father. I was the District 11 Skills USA Regional Champion in 2011 for extemporaneous speaking. I learned how to do more HVAC at MTCI, and I learned how to patrol and do basic security procedures from my year in law enforcement. I was a boxer and still a runner. I believe dedication and perseverance are the most important skills learned from my activities. I lost 130 pounds at age 15 into age 16, whilst I lost 130 pounds at age 15 into age 16 whilst attending school at PVHS and MCTI. I believe this is proof that I have the required dedication to be successful. Um,
Yeah, so she basically said whilst is a British term, and I don't see it that way at all. I have used whilst and many things I've written.
Me too.
I think it is kind of one of those like words you would use to make you sound more educated.
Yeah, I agree with you. I
So,
agree
I
with
mean,
you.
it's just like a smart people word, like just
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
pretentious.
Yes, there you go.
Yeah,
It's pretentious for sure. Um, that's how I see it. Like him saying extemporaneous.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
He's clearly trying to use words that like really bolster his intelligence.
Mhm.
Um, and I think that's pretty apparent. Um, so when we go back to the 4chan post and compare these two, I feel like there is no comparison personally.
I agree with you. I agree with you. And what's interesting too, like we can swap over to the other one because what whilst gets used in one of the 4chan posts, okay, in that one we were talking about where she's trying to draw the connection and say Bryan Kohberger could be this 4chan poster because of this word, okay? Now, what's interesting is while she's talking to the expert, she also talks about how many times he uses the word I, like it's a problem. So when I was saying how many people that I've interviewed, I expect to see I. It is something I look for when I'm hiring somebody, especially in a sales profession. Now, can my view be one sided? Absolutely, because I'm looking for people that have enough confidence to be able to come out in front of me and brag about themselves and their skills that might not fit these other professions and other jobs. All I've ever hired for is either training, sales, or people management in sales, right? So hiring store managers, district managers, hiring training managers, hiring salespeople in a B2B atmosphere, things of that nature. But other industries can be very different. I've never hired for a janitor. I've never hired for a courier. I've never hired for a security guard. You know what I mean?
Okay, yeah. I want to bring something up because everybody was at like I saw people asking what, and we got a super chat. Did you see it?
Mm-mm.
I was gonna answer that super chat real quick.
Oh,
Um,
Regina coming in
So,
hot again.
Regina, Skills USA, I just pulled up the website. It says America's premier skilled trades showcase. The Skills USA Championships is the premier showcase of America's most highly skilled career and technical education students. It's also one of the largest hands-on workforce development events in the world, held in conjunction with Skills USA National Leadership and Skills Conference each June. This awe inspiring event features more than 6,000 state champions from across the United States competing head to head in 115 skilled and leadership competitions. And he was talking about how he can like do pipe work. Maybe that's what he was in it for. But it says for what?
It sounds like pipe work and
Maybe that's it.
HVAC.
Yeah,
So
that's
soldering.
yeah.
Mhm.
That's probably what it was for.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Um,
HVAC
but
it
yeah, so that's interesting,
so
but
I
it
don't think
doesn't
she knew what HVAC was. It's
so
heating and cooling,
correct. Yep.
like air conditionings and
Yep.
stuff.
I don't remember what each of those letters are for, but I can do a quick Google search. It stands for heating, ventilation, and air conditioning.
Yeah, and this application was released to the internet. From what I saw, the originating source was Fox News that put this out there.
Okay.
That's
Okay.
that's where I found it.
Yeah. No, that's interesting. That's interesting for sure. But I just had to go back to the things she was pointing out, though, because I think that's really
Yeah, you
important,
should.
and I also think that in situations where somebody has experience where they can share with other people, it's beneficial, you know? And again, I just wanna clarify, I'm not saying that character analysis is wrong. I can only give you guys my opinion from my perspective and experience, so
Yeah, and I wanted to say thank you, Regina, for that super chat. We
yes.
appreciate it. But I just am kind of confused why she went to whilst being a British term.
I
Like, because that anybody I don't know. Like, I don't know. That's just strange to me to think it's exclusively British.
it is strange to think
Like,
it's
I was
exclusively British because I've used it a whole bunch of times when, again, I'm trying to make my writing seem
bolster it.
pretentious, yeah, and
Yeah.
a big deal. And here's a really interesting thing too, is this sentence. The reason why I touched on it is because whilst can be used as a substitute for while still. So I lost 130 pounds at age 15 into age 16 while
Well,
still
that's the appropriate
attending
way to use
school
it.
at PVHS and MCTI. Um, the way I think, though, I think when you're talking Europe, I think that whilst it can be a substitute for just while. I'm pretty
We
sure
need to ask Harsh.
when I was doing some research on it, I think that that's what it was explaining.
I need
So this is used in its proper form
I'm
here.
confused. Why are people saying that whilst is a term that narcissists use?
I don't know, maybe because I said that I use it.
I
That'd be
used it a
funny.
ton and I was at a college age reading level like in the 5th grade. Like from the 5th grade up, maybe even a little yeah, I was like at the 5th grade. I started reading at a college level. And I got really into writing for like a really long time in high school and some of college. And whilst is like very normal.
It is.
It's a
I
super
agree.
normal word to use in America in academia, so I'm just very confused by that because I know she's educated. Maybe it's the part of the country she lives in, maybe she's not originally from the US, I don't know, but it just seems
Yeah.
strange to me to make that connection.
Yeah.
And I also agree with you that the 4chan posts don't come across British to me either.
I think they can,
Yeah,
but I
maybe.
don't think it is 100% that. Like, the things they pointed out are all things I've heard hanging out, you know, in the hood where, nicknames are very common, and you can have any mix of nicknames. You hear the C word all the time, you know? Um Fresher is not only a British term, it's also a term for freshmen here, you know?
Yeah, it is.
Yes, yes, yes. So it was just interesting coming from a different perspective. And that's what we want to be able to highlight and pull out here. And I think that's what's really important in these situations is the fact that we can present and show um the opposite side, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I would love to have a chat with character analysis one day. I appreciate her a ton,
N
man. I think
absolutely.
uh she's a critical thinker. She makes me think a lot of times. She's wonderful. I feel like this was a real big stretch in my mind, but what?
Motors Mary says, "I is better than a third person resume." You're right.
Right.
Imagine writing a third person
Right.
resume. That would be so
Oh my
ridiculous.
gosh, that would be like a
I need to
narcissist.
do that.
Oh, you should do
I
it.
should.
You should write a resume and post it online like
Yeah,
a
I should.
yeah.
That would be hilarious.
It would be
Super
funny.
funny.
Like
I would
Brendan is
interview
the
somebody.
most
I would interview somebody just because of that. I literally would, I swear.
you would wanna know what's going on
Yes, I
in
would.
that person's
Yes, I
head.
would. I I always interviewed the, people that had really far out their resumes because I wanted to see what was going on. It never turned out to be good, but, you know.
Yeah, one of my friends literally, like colored all over one of her resumes one time, and I was like, "What are you doing?"
Yeah.
And
So
and she got hired, and I
yeah.
was like, "What?"
Yeah. So resumes are looked at very different now. So trifold resumes are really big. Artistic resumes are really big. I think that resumes are less about giving your skills and experience and more about making you stand out from the crowd. You find out the skills and experience during the interview.
Oh, really? Elliot was in Skills USA? That's cool.
Oh,
What
that is
for? I
awesome.
didn't see if you explained what it was for. Yeah, that's real cool. No, but I definitely did some I've done conventions before just for different things.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Um, but yeah, okay, so going back to this, it was just interesting. It was just interesting, and I think it just shows a, I know I said this a couple times already, but I think it just okay, there it is, yeah. Bam! Regina coming in with another $5 super chat. I hear HVAC, and whilst I know it's air conditioning, I still don't know what they do. I know, right?
Yeah.
I think it's everything that has to do with it. Everything from running the what's that called? The out, like the vent out and the air in. I think those are the two separate terms or something like that. I'm
I
probably
mean,
hacking it.
don't
I don't
don't
know.
H
I'm not
HVAC
trained in
people,
that.
they can clean it, they can install it, they can, fix issues, like, they're just maintenance men basically for your air conditioning, your furnace, anything related to the heating and cooling of your home.
Yeah, when I was
But
14,
good application of the word whilst.
yeah,
Great,
when I
Regina.
was 14, I helped a friend install AC units. It was like his family business. So I know a little bit, but not I couldn't like do it on my own.
Mm. And thank you for gifting that membership, Regina. Congratulations to whoever got it. We really appreciate that. Bella Moon, is whilst British or American? Whilst and while are two words with identical meanings usually, but you can't always use whilst instead of while.
Right.
Typically, Brits use whilst and Americans use while.
Yeah, and that's what I was saying a little bit earlier. Maybe you hopped on after what I was saying, but I think I'm pretty sure that when you're using it in the British sense, whilst replaces while, but there is an actual usability of whilst in writing when you're replacing while still. And I do believe that that's exactly what was going on here is whilst can replace while still and make you seem prestigious.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But
Wait.
what?
Did he explain right there?
Who?
Elliot. Okay.
But yeah, okay. So what else was said on here that needed to be pointed out?
Well, I saw somebody correcting me because of the narcissist thing and like the I saying I a lot. Because I thought you guys were saying whilst was a narcissistic term.
Yeah,
And
no, they're saying I'm a narcissistic term.
yeah, right. But yeah, using I mean, I don't think I've ever written a resume where I didn't use I a lot.
Oh,
I don't know anybody who has. So
oh, wait.
he's not just writing like a story about himself. He's laying out his skills. Like the whole point is literally to sell yourself. You are
Let's see.
selling yourself.
Let's see. Am I full of it?
What?
I'm not gonna show my resume here, but
Well,
let me see
no.
if I'm
How much
full of
you
it.
used I?
Yeah, let's see.
That would be super funny if you didn't use I at all.
Yeah, I didn't use I at all.
No, he didn't use a single I.
Oh,
Oh.
yeah, but it's all about me. Every single thing on here.
Yeah, it's because you used bullet points. and you just you didn't use any context words. You like are straight to the point.
Yep.
This.
Yep. Yep.
He's writing it out in a very different way.
Yep.
But that is interesting, I guess.
Yep. Yep. I think it just depends on what approach you're taking in that situation. I think it's important too that you can present it as like, what's that called? The Socratic method or whatever, where you're guiding your interviewer or interviewee in the direction that you want them to go to highlight the topics that you want them to highlight. But you know, that's kind of like sales mumbo jumbo sales experience. But remember, you guys, like when we're talking about this, my experience is the sales industry. So it's very different. I think it's different than every other type of industry out there because the confidence is everything. I would take somebody that has no experience and confident over somebody that has a ton of experience and not confident in sales. And the reason being is because in sales, you're going to get knocked down over and over and over and over and over and over again. So the only way is to have a certain level of confidence. And I think that that confidence is probably why people think I'm aggressive even in here. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I can
Yeah.
see that.
But yeah, it's just confidence. Some people can handle it and some people can't.
CH said, explain the difference between while and while still. They are the same thing.
Yeah.
Well, I think there is while still and while. I mean, there's different applications in language for
Yep.
those. I mean,
Yep.
like while I was at the grocery store, I did this.
Mm-hmm.
I think that it comes across differently.
While still at the grocery store, I did this. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that you're implying that you've been there a while.
Yep.
Not like I don't know. It comes off different if you know what I mean. It's like different context.
Yeah, that's super funny, you guys. I was totally just making it seem like I would expect to see I all over my resume, and there's literally not one.
I know, it's pretty
There's
funny.
not one.
It's pretty funny.
See, I'm full of it. If I know one thing in life, and that's that I know nothing.
Kimmy said her resume has 0 eyes.
That's hilarious. Yeah.
It must be the way they're written now, though, because what year is this from? Does it say what year it's from? Because
2015.
this is a very classic application of what I would have filled out for some of my first jobs. Yep, 11/10/2015.
Yep.
I boxed after school every day at Jesse Harris's boxing gym
Mm-hmm.
by Big Cheese Pizza. I also attended a year of the law enforcement program and a year of HVAC and MCTI. What's MCTI? Do you know what that is?
I don't.
I don't know either.
Yeah.
Interesting. He boxed though. Do you feel like that adds any
Weirdness? No.
abilities to him though? Like having boxed, like, do you think that makes him more capable of committing this crime than somebody who hasn't? Like having
No,
more skills?
I don't.
No?
No, I don't. I don't think that somebody had to be in shape to do this crime.
Really?
Yeah, I don't think someone needed to be in shape. No.
I mean, I think Bryan Kohberger is very in shape. Like he's a runner. He boxed and stuff.
Mhm.
Like I think he's pretty in shape.
Yep.
I don't know. Yeah, stamina I think is important for this crime if you're alone. Tennessee, I agree with you completely.
You just have to be crazy. Agreed. I don't think so. I think adrenaline is a huge part of the puzzle, and that's pretty much it, honestly.
So
honestly.
you think the adrenaline makes up for any lack of stamina?
Yeah, think about it. Every serial ender out there isn't in shape.
Yeah,
You know,
like
look,
John Wayne Gacy.
yeah, Gacy, Hewerman,
Oh, yeah.
what's that other guy that we
Human's
covered?
big,
Not
though. Gosh.
Gacy. It's the guy who got let out a whole bunch of times and had that
Oh,
weird smothering thing. Gosh, what
oh.
is his name? He's from the north.
He's got a really, like, weird
Oh yeah,
name.
Barjona. Nathaniel
Nathaniel.
Barjona. Nathaniel Barjona. He was overweight. A lot of people
Yeah,
are.
but do you realize that all 3 of those targeted people who were much smaller? Rex Heuermann targeted very petite women, and
Don't they all?
vulnerable women. Gacy targeted young boys,
Don't they all?
and also Nathaniel Barjona targeted kids.
Don't they all?
But these are like grown college girls, and I mean, I guess
Bundy.
2 of them are pretty petite, and then there's a man involved.
I'm
So I'm just saying.
Gacy got young men, not children, but young men. Men that could have been capable of taking advantage of him.
They were pretty young though, no?
I
I thought
mean,
they were like
no.
teens age.
No,
Not
not all of
adults.
them.
No, not all of them.
No, not all of them. Yeah, so I don't know. I don't know, but, size isn't going to be a huge factor when you have a 9-inch blade.
Yeah.
It's just not. With the adrenaline and the intent to harm, it
Well, and the element of surprise and them being drunk from being out partying, I think that's
Yep.
a big deal too.
I agree with you. I agree with you. Everything was stacked against them, unfortunately,
It
in this
was.
situation.
It's super
Everything was
sad.
stacked against them. Yep. Yep.
So I think MCTI is Michigan Career and Technical Institute, possibly.
Yeah.
That's what
Okay.
pops up when I type it in.
That's his police force training that then got transferred into HVAC. Got it. That makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah, you're right, Motors Mary. People have lifted cars, and that's simply from adrenaline. That's not even talking like chemically induced psychosis and things like that, which that takes that to a whole nother level. But that's called something, and I can't remember right now. But like when there's been a car accident and someone's under a car, something like that, there have been women, literally women, like pregnant women, and just doing absolutely incredible things, amazing feats of strength for like an average built woman. And that's all powered by adrenaline, just to show you how the impact adrenaline can have. Because you guys have probably heard this, that drug, not Sherm, PCP. So what PCP does is overrides your brain sensors for your muscles. So normally our bodies only allow us to use like 30 to 50% of our muscle strengths. And to keep us safe, it holds back that other 50% plus. And there are certain things out there like adrenaline and chemicals that can override that and let you have access to the whole 100% of your muscle strength, which then allows you to do things like lift cars or fight off 10 officers or be shot 15 times and still,
It's crazy.
approach. Yeah. Yeah, it is.
So I got a correction from Miss Franklin in the chat. She said Monroe Career and Technical Institute, and that is in Bartonsville, Pennsylvania. So that is probably it. Most likely.
Yeah,
It's probably not Michigan, because I was thinking that. I was like, Michigan sounds weird. I never heard of him going to Michigan. So yeah, that makes sense. Monroe Career and Technical Institute.
I didn't even put those together when you said it, but yeah.
I felt weird about it, but I was like, that's what pops up when I type it in. But
yeah.
This makes sense.
So now going into this here, okay. So this is the request for the test around what was it called? What was that test called? I have it right here. Hang on. That Bryan put out for?
I don't know, but my eye itches so bad.
Then itch it.
I literally want to claw it out of my face right now.
Just itch it.
I can't itch it.
Okay, this.
You don't understand.
What was it? DeSales, right? Isn't this the request for the DeSales questionnaire?
Hmm?
I
Yeah.
think so.
Yeah, you mean for people like convicts to write
Yes,
into him?
correct. Yeah,
Yeah.
correct. So, my name is Bryan, and I am inviting you to participate in a research project that seeks to understand how emotions and psychological traits influence decision making when committing a crime. In particular, this study seeks to understand the story behind your most recent criminal offense, with an emphasis on your thoughts and feelings throughout your experience. In the event that your most recent offense was not one that led to a conviction, you may still participate. Additional surveys are included after the open ended section as to best understand your unique traits. The study should take about 15 to 20 minutes to fully complete. Your identity and provided all answers provided are completely confidential, and the link to the survey is also an anonymous link. This research has been approved by the DeSales University IRB. Participants must be 18 years of age or older. If you opt to participate, you may terminate participation at any time for any reason. And then it gives his DeSales email here. So this is written way better, obviously, and I would expect it to be, because I would assume that this has been proofed, right? By probably a professor, a TA, a peer, something of that nature,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah, probably. For
So,
sure.
we aren't seeing the I in here, but
It's
we
very
can,
standard research, like, it's written the way it should be.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's written way better than I would write it. That's for sure. Grammar is not my strength. I'm
So,
not like,
yeah, I'm curious about that. So there is no way to get a hold of those emails now that since he
what do
left
you
the
mean? The
sales?
responses of
Yeah.
those people? Oh gosh, I
Yeah.
don't think so.
No.
That
Kimmy was saying that sucks for investigators that they can't look at that.
I agree with you, but that would be a huge, 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 huge lawsuit, in my opinion, because it's
Yeah,
DeSales
I
signed
guess.
off on this. Okay, this is not Bryan Kohberger. This is the college backing Bryan Kohberger to do this. And for investigators to dig into the personal information, I think could be problematic.
Hmm.
But I don't know. I don't know. If I was a cop, I would try and find a way to dig into it too, because it says here whether you got convicted or not. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I wonder how many people reached out and was like, yeah, I ended somebody and never got caught.
Yeah, I'm pretty positive Bryan Kohberger was a psychology minor.
Yep.
Yeah. Very positive of that.
Yep.
The teacher didn't help him wait. Didn't
You,
help him
you
prove?
what?
She said she isn't surprised a criminology student did a survey like that. That's all. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not surprised at that either. Look, whether you think he's guilty or whether you think he's innocent, and part of the reason that so many people are so caught on this case is because whether you think he's guilty or whether you think he's innocent, there are so many weird factors to this, and the mainstream media covering things like this survey and trying to make it seem like, oh, this is Bryan planning his crime this many years in advance. I mean, come on, dude. He's part of a criminology um he's part of a criminology class, and that class and that college is backing this. So
So,
I don't feel anything weird from this,
well,
but
also, I don't think he would have planned this far in advance. I think that
oh,
if
I do.
Bryan is the killer, he almost certainly has more victims, even if they're not murder victims.
Yeah,
Some kind of
I agree.
abuse, assault, peeping Tom situation.
Yeah.
He almost certainly will have more victims if he is the killer. I don't think there's any way somebody could just snap and do that crime.
I completely
Not
agree with you.
not unless it's somebody they know, like people they know. You know what I mean? Like a house full of people you know.
Yeah, and here's the thing too though that I think people need to understand is that for years and years and years and years and years before a criminal or a serialist or whatever, you know, a mass whatever, uh these people dwell on the idea of this crime for years, dude, for years. And we've seen it time and time and time and time again. Even that one story that we covered, the dude that went into his work and he did all the video recordings of himself. Do you remember who I'm talking about? And he went live while going through his job as a night stalker.
Oh, yeah,
You
yeah.
remember who I'm talking
Yeah.
about? I don't remember the name of that guy right
He
now,
was
but
obsessed with the cartoon.
yep, he was obsessed with the cartoon. He was a content
Da
creator.
Danny? No.
Yes,
Uh,
I think so. Danny something. Danny,
it was Danny Phantom that he was obsessed
oh,
with.
that's right.
He was
He was
called
obsessed with
something
Danny
else.
Phantom. But,
Oh
but
gosh.
so he did video.
Randy Stair.
Randy Stair.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. He did video journals of himself for multiple years talking about the crime that he was going to commit and whether he was going to end himself or whether he was going to do it with people. And I mean, the obsessive thoughts and ideas and planning years prior is so eye-opening, you guys. It is so eye-opening. That's why I agree with you. I think that there has to be some kind of other victim, even if it means that victim wasn't ended,
Hmm.
you know?
Yeah. I need to run to the bathroom really quick.
Yeah.
I'll be right back.
Yeah. He did let someone live, I know. And the only gosh, that's such a weird case. You guys should go watch our video, because it's Randy Stare or something like Savage or something like that. But there was one person that was really close to him. He turned the corner while live, ending all these people with guns, and turned the corner and went eye to eye with this girl. And and the leading theory is being that close to her and making eye contact with her, you know, eye to eye, humanized her. Did I just say Randy Savage? That's super funny. I didn't mean Randy Savage. But but yeah, he let her live, let her run away. And that's eye-opening in itself. The fact that someone got close enough to him to make eye contact and it made him not be able to pull that trigger, you know? Because that is such an awful situation. You guys really need to watch that video because it shows you the disconnect of these obsessive thoughts and how they snowball. So, like, he starts video journaling 2 years prior, okay? And if Bryan is the killer in this situation, I believe this could have happened, but he starts obsessively thinking about this 2 years prior, and he has video journaling and vlogging, and, it as the journaling continues, the disconnect from reality gets more and more and more and more and more severe. He just further separates and separates and separates from reality to the point that he believes that there is another dimension out there, and that other dimension is a cartoon dimension, like really far out stuff, you guys. Total and complete disconnection from reality. And it got to the point where you know, he had this obsession with guns, he had this obsession with the Columbine dudes, and it came down to a coin flip of whether he was going to take people out with him or not. And he's video journaling and talking to the camera about why he's doing it on a coin flip, and it was best out of 3, and it is just so insane, you guys. The level of disconnect is wild, and just seeing where he starts talking about the potential of ending himself to then that coin flip is
It
eye-opening,
it's an
scary.
insane case.
It is terrifying, absolutely terrifying. And then that very next day, he goes in his work with his 2 guns that he coin flipped to do, and ended 3 people.
No, yeah, it wasn't his family, it was coworkers because he was like a night stalker at, a grocery store.
Yep,
But he literally looks one girl in the eyes with, like, the gun
and
pointed
lets her
at her
go.
and lets her go, but kills everyone else,
And
and he thought ahead, he blocked all the doors so that they
yes,
couldn't get out.
that's exactly what I was gonna say, is the level of planning and commitment here is, that's why with the Kohberger stuff, if Kohberger is guilty in this situation, it wasn't just on the fly, you guys. This guy went into his work and took multiple hours to, um, block all the doors, cover them so people couldn't run out, so that when he pulled out the guns, they had nowhere to go. And he had been planning this way ahead of time and setting things in proper places days ahead of time. He knew what he was going in there to do, and he literally live streamed it. And it is one of the worst situations I've ever seen. One of the worst disconnections from reality I have ever seen, to the point that, like I said, he believed there was a cartoon dimension, and that's where he was going to if he could get rid of his body. Like, and this kid was a content creator.
Uh, you're not a minority or anything, we feel the same way, like, we don't lean one way or the other at all.
Nope,
You
I
know,
can't.
we can't until we see more evidence. We don't have a solid belief on guilt or innocence. I need to see more before I can make that decision. And I think, yeah, there's glaring red flags there that clearly there's a possibility there. The first video we made on it, and I've said this lots of times in the chat, but it seems like maybe you're newer, Tay. I'm not sure. I think
Mm-mm.
I've seen you here
Yep,
before, like a lot. But, we really felt like it was BK in the beginning, and then
yep,
we started just looking into the evidence, and as we look through it, there's
yep,
holes that exist, and we just need the supporting evidence,
yep,
to really back it up. Yeah, Kimmy, Tennessee, Tay, yeah, you guys seem like you're very similar
yep.
in the way you think about it, and I appreciate your guys' input. I think that people that think the way you do help provide balance,
Yes.
and we want that balance. We don't want an echo chamber here.
No echo chambers. I don't want people to believe me or think the same way I do. I want people to question what I'm saying, and that helps all of us grow. That expands our ideas. That expands our opinions and the theories and the potentials, and whether a theory that you might have is able to stand on its own 2 legs and hold water, is questioning that theory, and other minds are going to come up with different questions along that theory that you're not
Yep,
going to be able to offer yourself in your own
yep.
theory. So yeah, we aren't one-sided or the other, but I think a lot of people will look at our thumbs and the topics we're covering and feel like we are one-sided. But look, I'm motivated by making sure that we have a justice system we can trust. That is my true motivation here. When I first started looking into this case, it made me want to look at the evidence, and the second I looked at the evidence, I was like, "Oh,
Yeah.
what?"
There's problems. So I wanted to say, anybody, TC, I saw you say that your video's blurry. Just so you know, if you have any internet issues at all, like a little short, like where it stops, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know why I said short, like just a little hiccup in your connection. It will because your quality on your video and the settings, it's set to auto, just standard. Um, so if there's any hiccup in your connection, it's going to go down to the lowest quality. You can go and press 720 or 1080p, and that should help. If it doesn't help, then refresh. But there you go. Because that happens to me all the time.
Yeah. All right, let's look at these questions that came with this and see if these are interesting or not. We've never covered this. So if you guys have seen this before, I apologize. One thing that people need to remember, we have a lot of viewers that are like experts on this case, man. Know way more about it than I do. I started late on this case, so we're getting caught up with everything that's been talked about over the last year. And this is one of those topics that had come out a long time ago that we just haven't had the time to cover, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
So if you guys know something or we're missing something, definitely shout it out, you know. I learn more from our community than anything else, I'll tell you that.
Do you use notes to organize your thoughts when you research?
Um, I use bullet points.
Okay, there's your answer, CH.
Yep.
So what
For
is
my
it?
ADHD, or I use keywords. So, like, one thing I deal with ADHD is if I don't have enough oxygen going to my head through means of caffeine or whatever, then it's really easy for me to forget very basic words that nobody should ever forget, but it's just a symptom of the ADHD. So, a lot of times I will write down a bullet point of the topic. So like if I want to talk about DeSales, I'll write DeSales University, and then I'll put some key words there that will help me remember certain terms or ideas that I had while researching this.
Oxygen, caffeine, what?
Yeah.
What about oxygen?
No, it's not. The caffeine increases the oxygen to my head because it increases blood pressure and blood flow, increases your heart rate. So, going into
I don't think that's
DeSales,
true.
yeah, it's true. That's not opinion.
It constricts blood flow.
That I know that you had brought that up before, but a doctor told me that's how it works.
Okay.
So, um and I mean, you can literally see it. If I talk without caffeine, my words are not
Yeah, but I know caffeine helps my migraines because it constricts the blood vessels in your head.
it it might constrict it, but and that might not have anything to do with the oxygen level in your blood. I don't know.
Okay.
Since
So
I'm not a doctor, I
okay.
don't know.
So what's important in this?
Nothing. We're just going through it. Why?
Okay.
Is there something you want to get to?
No. I
Oh,
just wanted to know like what we're doing. We're
oh,
gonna go through it all?
yeah,
Okay.
yep. Um, so number one is, what was the first move you made in order to accomplish your goal? Please detail any thoughts and feelings at this point.
So one question, why is this 0 to 100%? What does that mean? What are those? Does
That
anybody know?
that this is probably just how far along you're at in your test.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Oh, like it's the person taking it. Okay.
Yeah. But so do you think anything about that question?
Uh no,
No?
not really. Why?
Uh, we're just think tanking,
Okay.
and
So,
you're
okay, if I mean, I just feel like it's pretty standard research. Like, I don't know. I've read these before. I
okay.
I think that if he's coming at it from a point of planning, then I mean, I guess it makes sense to ask that question. Do you have thoughts on it? What are your thoughts on that question?
I mean, I think it's interesting. I think there's an argument here within these questions to make it seem like this could be somebody doing exactly what I was just talking about with that other content creator, how he obsessed on this idea of the crime and how he was going to do it for years and years and years and years. So when you're looking at the potential of Bryan Kohberger being guilty, I think this could be good evidence if there's more evidence of his guilt. I also think this could be a nothing burger. It's all circumstantial based on what we see,
Yeah.
because this could be completely normal, or it could be him trying to understand how a crime would make him feel without doing the crime. It's a
So
good argument
one
for Bryan Kohberger's
I mean,
guilty.
I figured we would read through them all and then talk about it, but I mean, what I'm seeing a lot in this, okay, is did you do this? And then what were you feeling and thinking at that point? One thing I've seen A.R. Hayes argue a lot is that it doesn't matter how much you study criminology or crime, that you can't account for the feelings you're feeling in the moment when you're doing that crime. And I feel like that's a very valid argument that no matter what, you know, how much you've looked into it, how much you've studied up, how much you've thought about it and fantasized about it, the emotions and the feelings are going to be something that are very intense and may not be expected in the moment. So I'm wondering if talking to other criminals, asking them what they were thinking and feeling at this point through literally each point in planning and then committing the crime and after, if that helps, like prepare yourself for those feelings.
I think the only way it would help you prepare is if you talked with somebody that can help you prepare for the uncontrollable uh outcome of adrenaline.
So you think it would help? Or no, nothing could ever help? Because the adrenaline I mean, the adrenaline, yeah, nothing can prepare you for that, but, like, that's not all there is to it, is there? It's just adrenaline.
No, I'm saying that I said that I think that that could help.
Okay.
Yeah. I think that could help because that's the unknown factor. That's what nobody expects to have happen to them.
Is the spike of adrenaline?
Yeah, is the loss of control and the spike of adrenaline.
I'm really curious, to actually see some like a real criminal or multiple criminals' answers to these questions to see like what their thoughts and feelings were during this. I really wish we could be privy to some of those answers or the results from this study. Like even if we can't see the individual's answers, like if they came out with some statistics, like you know 90% of criminals felt this way or had, an overwhelming, adrenaline rush at this, like while they were committing the crime.
Yeah, I agree. So one thing that we've seen multiple times over and over and over and over again is when you have a serial ender, one thing that happens to them is on their first crime, they have a reaction, which is adrenaline and emotions. And you have the first woman nurse serial ender that laughed uncontrollably for a long time after she had committed that first crime or whatever. And there's been a ton of them. Sometimes it is feeling like they're almost going to pass out. Sometimes it is it could be multiple different things. I'm There's no way to know for sure. And I think understanding that you need to plan for something that can't be planned goes a long way. I think it goes a long way in this.
For sure.
Yeah.
I think that it could. But I just at the same time, there's nothing like the real thing, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
So, I don't know. It's hard to know, but like I said, I would be oh my gosh, I would love to see the results of this study.
Yeah.
I'm curious if we can look up any studies like this where there's results. I'm gonna have to look.
Yeah, we need to pull this up and see if we can come up with it.
Yeah, I'm fascinated by the psychology too. I mean, that's honestly what got me into true crime because I think it's what gets most people into true crime is what are these people thinking and feeling? Because how could they do this? Like, how could they ever do this? It's just so unthinkable to somebody who is like can't do something like that or
Yeah.
has never even thought of something like that. Um, it can be it's fascinating because it's so extraordinary, like it's so not normal. um that's why when I saw this study from Bryan originally, I was like, but is that weird? He's a criminology student with a psychology minor, and like his family has psychologists in it, like his sister and stuff. It doesn't seem that weird to me. But like, if he turns out to be the killer, I mean, you have to ask questions about this, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, is there a purpose behind this? Like, he obviously had the choice. Like, he clearly presented this to professors, the college, whoever, and they were like, "Oh, yeah, that's a great idea."
Yeah.
Like, it was his idea, even if they signed off on it and supported it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, what's interesting is the correlation to these questions that could be used in this crime. Like there are a lot of overlap in these ideas. Like, did you prepare for the crime before leaving your home?
Yeah.
Please detail what you were thinking and feeling at this point. Now, it's interesting. I wonder and if the prosecution or the state didn't do this, I probably would have sought out the teacher that was involved in setting this up to try and understand his take on this from the teacher student perspective. What was the goal here? Because they're asking about like feelings, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
And if this is aimed towards homicide, I don't know how much feelings would be involved in that unless this doesn't have anything to do with homicide and this just has to do with your basic crime like robbery and things like that. You know what I mean? But there are multiple spots in here that say victim and talk about victims or targets, which makes you feel like it is aimed towards homicide. So I don't know.
Great. Dang it.
What?
I sent that to the wrong person. I just texted the wrong person.
Oh. Yeah, so um
Wonderful.
So, yeah, so before did you prepare for the crime before leaving your home? Please detail what you were thinking and feeling at this point. Um, and down here at number 9, it talks about after arriving what steps did you take prior to locating the victim or target? And on this one too, it talks about a victim or a
Well, how
target.
you approach them, yeah, and then what you were thinking or feeling.
I I
It's
agree. It's really strange, and it makes me want to understand what the goal was for this. Is it makes me That's what it makes me wanna understand, is what was the goal here for this?
well, in that beginning part, did he ever state a goal? Like where he
No,
describes a study?
I don't believe so.
Like what they're trying to learn? This
Let's
study
see.
seeks to understand the story behind your most recent criminal offense with an emphasis on your thoughts and feelings throughout your experience. In the event that your most recent offense was not the one that led to okay. So
Yeah.
it's just understanding their traits and their decision making
Yep.
and what they're feeling while doing it. Like that's it. That's
Yep.
all he says.
Yeah.
So
But I'm curious, like, what so normally when you put something like this out, right? There's a goal. There's something you're trying to accomplish. What is he trying to accomplish here? Is it just simply for the sake of experience and getting a better understanding and getting in the mind of a criminal that has harmed a victim and or target or other person? You know what I mean? Or was this with the intention of understanding something else? And I understand we're going deep here, and this doesn't necessarily have to be that deep, but it makes me curious. If Bryan is the guy, if Bryan is the guy, um, what character traits can we see or, you know, categorize before the crime? You know?
yeah, I'm curious. I mean, it's interesting. Each question are kind of um oh, yeah, but that's a time limit.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay, well, let me look at that real quick.
If BK has Hep C, I don't know. Like, you're asking because of his addiction. So one thing, we have quite a few family members that have been that have dealt with that disease, addiction, not Hep C, addiction. Um, just because you're an opiate user doesn't mean you're a needle user. So I personally haven't heard anything around him being an IV user, because that type of dope can be used in any way, literally any way.
Can you
So
look to see if that shows the history on your side?
I can try.
There should be a little button underneath it, does it? Yeah, press that. It does. Yeah, I should have done it right away because now I can't.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Back on track. Sorry.
Yeah. Okay, good to go now.
Yep.
So
Do we know for a fact Bryan was an IV user?
no, that's what we were just talking about while you were fixing what you had going on there. Is there is no way. And one thing that I think is really important is most people don't jump to IV, you guys. IV is after you've tried and tested and true and looking for the
It's a
best of
big
the
step.
It is, yeah,
It's a
it's
big
a
step.
huge step, a huge step. But have I known people that have gone straight to IV? Yes, and normally it's because there's a catalyst. They have a friend user. Because if you're a single user, like the true addict self, and you don't know how to prepare IV, it's not something you can just wake up and do. You know
Yeah,
what I
and you
mean?
do not there's many ways to use H, okay?
Yeah.
I will
Was
promise
someone saying there wasn't?
I no, no, no.
Oh,
But I promise you that
it's one of the few.
I know a lot about this, even though I'm not gonna advertise how I know all of it. I know a lot. So I just want to put that out there.
There are there are 3 drugs out there, the top 3 most dangerous drugs, and those 3 can be used in any form or fashion, you guys. And what I mean by that is IV, intranasal, ingestion, all of them. You can do them in any way. So if you ever hear that you can only use like that opiates in a certain way, that type of opiate, that's not true. You can use it in any way. It or the glass kind or the white powdery kind. All of those can be used and ingested in every single way that a body
Yeah.
can be ingested. And the reason why is they're water soluble.
And
So anything water soluble can be used in any ingestible form.
so I will also want to say there's like some kind of rumor going around that an air bubble in a syringe like somehow killed somebody. That is,
Yes, you
dude,
guys are right.
I was in a hospital with almost like literally like 3 inches of the tube full of air. And I was like, oh, I was like, shouldn't you like get that out or something? She's like, no, it's not going in like, one of your whatever veins, like pulmonary veins or something like that. She's like, if it was like this whole tube or like, more, I would be really worried. She said, I don't like to see that there. But it depends on the vein. Okay. It depends on if you have certain medical conditions. Like there's more factors than that. And I've known a lot of people who have shot up air. Okay. So
That
it's
is amazing. Go
what?
ahead, sorry. I just think that anytime somebody has gone through life and has not used anything, that's incredible. And a huge shout out because that's a really hard thing to do. However, if people have used stuff, that doesn't make anybody better or worse. I'm just surprised because it's a rare thing.
Yeah, just a single little bubble is not going to kill anybody.
No,
It will not.
it
Will
won't.
not.
No, no, your body works through that.
Yep,
Yep.
it does.
Yeah.
It has to
Bodies
be
are incredible to me.
right. It have to be quite a bit of air. Like
Yeah.
quite a bit of air for it to cause an issue.
Yeah.
So that rumor, if you guys hear it, don't believe it. Not
Yeah.
unless somebody was like straight up like literally syringe full of air.
Yeah.
Like in a very important artery or vein or something. I forget. I don't remember
Mhm.
the kind it has to be, but it has to be a specific one for a smaller amount of air to be like more detrimental. I have to look it up because I forget what it's called, but
Yeah.
I think it's
Yeah.
literally like a pulmonary vein or something like that. But anyway,
So, going back to this here, before leaving, is there anything else you did? So that's interesting because that is like asked twice, okay? 2 different times. So, could this be used by the state or prosecution to say, look, there's evidence, there is behavioral evidence of planning here, of planning. You know what I mean?
yeah. Yeah.
And
I mean,
after committing the crime, what were you thinking of doing?
I think that if somebody wanted to commit a crime like this and they were thinking about it and they're in the position that Bryan is in studying criminology and they have the ability to do a study like this because they're having those because I know it wasn't it the 48 hours that was saying some lady in there was saying basically that she thinks he was doing all of this. He went into criminology and he did this study specifically to understand himself that
It's very possible. I
I
think
don't think that I mean, I think that's
let me
super
see.
possible, honestly. I think it is very possible if he had these thoughts his whole life. Um,
Yeah.
Now, one thing I want to say is in being an addict, though it doesn't make you a killer at all, because I know a ton of addicts, okay? It does
No.
not make somebody a killer at all,
I would
but
hope no one would think that.
it can be a red flag.
Yeah.
It definitely can be because serial killers like a lot of them have addictions and you could argue that serial killing is an addiction.
Yeah, yes, I think most serial people would classify it as an addiction. I really do.
Um Brian, to answer your question without actually going into it, it is one of the fastest ways to get something into your system. It is very, very fast. There's a lot of absorption, let's say.
So what about this? Have you seen this that is supposedly his?
Hmm? Oh, I haven't seen this.
You
What is
haven't?
this? Is this about the visuals or whatever
Yeah,
snow?
the Visual Snow group. Now,
I have never actually read this.
I want to clarify that regardless of what this says, he is a child under 18 here, right? If I'm doing my math, 28, this was 12 years ago, 16. Yes. Okay. I don't think this is good evidence. I don't think it could be evidence. I think the only kind of evidence that we could get from like a 15 or 16-year-old is somebody harming like animals or something like this. This is a platform where people are sharing their feelings openly.
Well, I think this is the age where you could really see someone becoming like a peeping Tom and like remember Danny
Mm,
Rolling as
yeah.
a young boy, even like younger than teenager, he used because he didn't have a good family home and his dad was really mean to him, he would go to like neighbors' houses, like nice families, and watch their families and want and wish that was him, that was his family, that he had
Yeah.
that. And it became this guilty pleasure. And then as he hit puberty and was coming into himself as a man, he started fantasizing about women and obsessing, and it became
It
a
also turned to a
it
hatred
turned
to
into a
where
hatred. Absolutely.
he
He
would watch
Mhm.
Peeping Tom these families, because that he wanted to see what he didn't have, he was jealous of
Yep.
these families he was watching, and it turned into a hatred because he didn't have that.
Right.
Yeah, yeah, you guys, I love the psychology, like, it is probably my favorite part about trying to understand the social disconnect of serialists and your average human being. I just I'm very weary of taking into account the character, the emotional, in someone's emotional IQ when they're under 18, because it is already hard for anybody, and I would expect to see something like this from anybody. You know what I
You
mean?
know what's funny is visual snow makes a ton of sense to me in some points of my life where I was extremely disconnected. It's called deal. I think actually it's Mike Applegate said it, and it made me remember what it was one time when we were on here. Derealization disorder, where you
Okay.
feel like you're looking at everything through a TV or a video game, and you don't feel like you're really here.
And that's Visual
And
Snow?
and I've had times where I've almost seen like everything kind of looks fuzzy. Like I'm so disconnected from reality where everything just feels and looks fuzzy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Where it's kind
Interesting.
of when you're looking out into nothing, like where you can see it. I don't know how to explain it. That's what I relate to in my
That's when
mind.
you gotta take some 5-HTP. All right, so, and for those of you that don't know, that's just a legal vitamin, but it has some weird, yeah, you can look into it. 5-HTP, you can buy it at any store. Okay, so remember, as we're going through this, you guys, this was written on July 4th of 2011. I saw multiple people comment on here. Based on my math, I thought he was 16, but he could be 15. So take this with a grain of salt. This is not evidence. You cannot use um preteen, middle teen years to compare someone's adult self. I just don't believe that. Maybe some people do, but I personally don't. So we'll get into it here. And this is Bryan Kohberger's platform comments of his Visual Snow group.
I
So,
mean, I think I'm yeah, I think it's when you look at visual snow is like when you look out and you see like little dots everywhere. Like honestly, I can look at the wall right now and see it. Like when I look out, I see like yeah, like pixels. like little tiny dots.
Yeah, I think everyone can.
Yeah, I think that's what visual snow is.
What? No, I don't have visual snow, and I can see that.
Okay.
All right.
I think the point is that people who are like normal don't pay attention to it, but he
Oh,
said going vegan stopped his visual snow. Interesting.
oh, okay. All right.
Hmm.
So
Maybe it's not normal. I don't know.
I've I have had this horrible depersonalization go on in my life for almost 2 years. I often find myself making simple human interactions, but it is as if I am playing a role-playing game such as Oblivion. I can see what is going on. I am slightly into it, but I can pause the game and focus on my real life. In this case, my life is the game, and my old self can be reached by pausing the game. But how? See, that's an interesting, like, two different selves, I thought. But again, under, 16 here. But how? I often think of things that humans do, things I have done my whole life. I feel like an organic sack of meat with no self worth. I am starting to view everyone as this. Everything I have ever done makes no sense. How did things get this way? How am I wearing this shirt? And who decided that humans shall wear shirts like this? Are we all just advanced animals with possession, or is there more that I can't see? I can't connect. I view everything as I would if I was playing Oblivion. Pointless and full of nothing, out of reality. I am moving out of my house. My last holidays were already lived, but where was I? As my family group hugs and celebrates, I am stuck in this void of nothing, feeling completely no emotion, feeling nothing. I feel dirty, like there is a dirt inside my head, my mind. I am always dizzy and confused. I feel no self worth. I am intelligent, but I feel the opposite. I say things I don't mean. The last holidays in my house, the house I grew up in, the house I once contributed to, the house I once felt at home in, is past. As I hug my family, I look into their faces, I see nothing. It is like I am looking at a video game, but less. I feel less than mentally damaged. It is like I have a severe brain damage. I am stuck in the depths of my mind where I have to constantly battle my demons. Am I here or am I fake? I feel myself slipping away. I hear screams faintly, but I constantly battle away from it. What if I let go? Where would I be? Would I ever come back to reality? I try to remember where I originated from, but I can't. I barely remember my childhood. I often fear being 80 years old, alone, and having faint memories of my parents. Everything I missed out on. I think about my father. I think about my father, what a good man he is, how I treat him like dirt because I have this condition, and I can't take it. I might spiral out of control and lose myself in the void. I can't let it all go. All of these regrets I predict for my future self. All of these thoughts of remorse. I got this when I was in my stage of discovery. Now I look in the mirror and I see this sickly, tired, useless, and stupid man in the mirror. He is a complete disgrace. He doesn't even deserve to live. I remember when I was 15, I would wander alone at 2 a.m. Everything was so generic. Nowhere felt like home. I saw things that were not there, a different reality. I felt eerie and alone. I died during those nights. I felt like a criminal, but where was my record? I can't talk without flinching now. I used to be this healthy blonde haired boy with blue eyes, and in a few years I have darker hair and darker eyes. Half the body weight. Where did I leave off? I try to sleep. I try to clear my head, but the pressure won't go away. The pain and depression won't leave. Being me is this horrible disease that I was given. I think of this as I succumb to sleep, but I see a large intensity of black, yellow, white fuzz. It makes my mind fizzle and I can barely keep in bounds of reality. It is as if the ringing in my ears and the fuzz in my vision is simply all of my demons in my head mocking me. I fall asleep, but I wake up quickly to bloody screams. Is any of this here? Am I brain damaged? No? Then why am I like this? I have these thoughts in my head. I search for someone to relate to me. Everyone looks down upon me. No one can relate. As I try to read, suddenly my eyes look right through the words. When I look up, I see blue dots near the center of my vision. When I feel slightly calm, it gets hard to breathe and I can't see, and I see bright dots in my vision. Nothing I do is enjoyable. I am blank. I have no opinion. I have no emotion. I have nothing. Can you relate?
Oh, I could totally relate when I was a teenager.
Really?
Oh, yeah. That was
Huh.
me. That was a lot like me. A lot. A stoned me, though. Like, I would definitely be high thinking like that.
Interesting.
But yeah, I could totally relate to that as a teenager, 100%.
Made my
Um,
eyes hurt.
yeah, because it's really hard to read because it's really fuzzy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I actually had that same exact thing. I didn't realize he was talking about it with his eyes closed because I've never read this before, but I had the same thing where every night when I would go to sleep, it would just be like fireworks in my like when I closed my eyes, just so many colors. Um,
Yeah.
and it was hard to go to sleep like that. But yeah, this I thought very similarly
That's
as a kid.
interesting.
Mhm. This is
I
trauma, and I'm really curious why he's this way, because it's not just teen angst, like, I had trauma that was causing all of that. That
Yeah,
was not just, like, normal teenage stuff, and I know there is a teen angstiness in there, clearly, like, you can tell it's a teenager, and teenagers definitely have teenager problems, but there's more to it than that.
I would never have been able to write 1 sentence, let alone all of this.
Oh, really?
No
I was
way.
a writer as a teenager.
I could not sit still. I woke up going 150 miles an hour, and I went to sleep going
So,
150
basically,
miles an
you were
hour.
like a demon child.
I just was always on the go. You could not get me to sit down. I never did homework, not because I didn't wanna do it, I just couldn't sit still. I had somewhere and something to do,
Hmm.
always.
Yeah, it's I think it is teen angst and introspection, but there's more to it than this. There has to be. Like, he has to have some kind of trauma that has
Uh,
resulted in this, whether it be some kind of brain damage, because I totally believe that you can have something happen like a head trauma and it caused this as a teenager, like as a baby or a small child, or something could have happened like a death in the family. I mean, anything
maybe.
could have happened as a young child to cause this. You think this is normal, like a healthy teenager who had a healthy upbringing would feel this way
I think that
without
this is
any kind of
normal
physical
for a teenager that has been overweight and an outcast and bullied. Yes.
trauma?
Yep.
That's trauma.
Right, but you're going to, like, very specific, like,
I was just giving
family-based
examples.
trauma that could have happened when he was younger, and I think there is other, like,
You're right.
more normal type trauma that could happen in everyday life. I don't think there needs to be some kind of, like, major traumatic incident like I've had in my past to get something like this. I think it is just a mix of character and who he is versus how he handles his emotions and feelings. Each person's different. I think when I was feeling depressed or anxious or whatever, I needed to jump a dirt bike or a bicycle or a skateboard or do something that got my adrenaline going and I was at risk of getting hurt, something like that. That was more my style, but that doesn't everybody's different. You know what I mean? You can get the same release writing something like this as somebody could being a daredevil, you know?
Yeah, even if it's not like the younger childhood trauma like I'm talking about, I think you're right. I think it can be literally everyone has trauma.
Yeah.
Everybody. It's about the coping skills that you have learned to deal with it that are going to change the way you end up, your trajectory in life. It's in how you handle it. That is everything.
Yeah.
Whether you become an addict or not, whether you feel like this and have these kinds of disorders. I think that a lot of this can be avoided when people are taught proper coping skills.
Yes.
So
I mean, this could be a coping skill. Writing
it could
feelings
be.
is not a negative thing.
No, it's a good thing.
What I was doing to cope was way worse, putting my physical health in jeopardy. You know what I mean? I mean, not necessarily. There is just extreme sports too, but it I think it depends on how it's done. Is it being done in a way to cope and live risky, taking risks, like unnecessary risks, or is it being done in a way where it's sport?
Yeah, he's criticized for this, which I don't understand criticizing him as like a person for this. What I
Yeah, I
see
don't
is
either.
drawing any connections of like if he's the murderer, then looking at the psychology of it and how he ended up from this to that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's the interesting part is seeing like the correlations, like how someone becomes that.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
Hmm?
I agree with you. I agree 100%. And it sucks. So I don't know if you guys remember this, but um it was when we first went full-time true crime, okay? And we were talking about these posts, and I think I came on here and said that I'm not willing to talk about these posts because they are done in a like an emotionally safe type setting, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But clearly that's changed. They've been out and all over the place and everything. There's literally no point in not talking about them, or we're not adding to something. So I've changed my mind since then. But it's uh, uh, it shows the depths of the attempt to character paint. You know what I
Oh
mean?
yeah.
In
Oh
this
yeah.
situation, because you have somebody who's 15, you have somebody who wrote, which is classic 15-year-old, you guys. I don't know about you, but this feels like classic depressed,
Yeah.
going through something 15-year-old, that, might need a group or a therapist or something like that. Uh, and it was 12 years ago. Like, it was a long time ago, you know what I mean?
It was.
I don't think this can be used as evidence or to help understand his character for the crimes that were committed in 2022.
I think once if he's convicted and we know for sure, like without a doubt he did it, then it would be interesting to go back and like study it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But using it towards the crime, I agree with you. I don't know about that.
Yeah, and pretty positive this was written around the time that he got into dope. Yeah. Yep. And shout out Jennifer for that. We
Yes.
appreciate that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think it started happening right around this time for sure. Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting he got off on his own, you guys. That is not common.
No,
Not common.
not at all.
So,
So where do the rumors come from that he was an altar boy?
I don't know.
Because I haven't seen an official source for that at all.
I don't know.
And I don't think his parents are Catholic. They are religious, but I don't think they're Catholic. So,
Oh, people were trying to speculate like alter.
yeah,
Oh, gotcha.
altar boy
Got it.
trauma,
Yep. Yep.
trauma. Yeah, he went to rehab.
Yep.
So what do you mean by he got off on his own? Wait.
So it's just not common for somebody to get off of dope like H. Um,
But he went to rehab, so what do you mean?
yeah, look up the statistics around how successful rehab is the first time.
Oh, so you're saying he went to rehab once and got off.
Yeah,
And
like
he did it. He admitted
99%.
himself?
I don't know those details.
Oh, okay.
To me, it doesn't matter if he went to rehab to get help or not. So if you look up the statistics around drug addicts, it is like over 95% relapse. And the fact that he was able to get off and do something positive is incredible. Like really incredible, you know?
Interesting. So they are Catholic? Okay. I'll just have to look more into it later.
Yeah. Yeah.
And weird.
Yes, yes, yes.
I don't know. I read that they weren't Catholic somewhere, I'm pretty sure. And I think Kimmy saw the same thing that I saw. So I don't know. Weird.
So
DeSales is a Catholic school. Okay.
the last few here we have, which this one is strange. After
What?
committing the crime, what were you thinking and feeling? I don't know. That's just a
Why did
weird
you choose
interest.
that victim over other targets? Why did you
Right
choose that
here.
victim?
So before
What?
making your move, how did you approach the victim or target? Please detail what you were thinking and feeling. Before making your move, how did you approach the victim or target? Huh. I guess that could be more than just like homicide. That could be pickpocketing. It could be robbery.
It could be SA.
Yeah.
It did in the outline, it didn't detail homicide though, did it?
No,
Did it say any crimes?
I'm pretty sure. We can go back there.
Yeah,
and
go
look.
back because I can't remember now. So does it say anywhere which crimes that they want? I don't see any crimes.
Nope. Just,
Just committing a crime.
yep. Yep.
So is that literally just any crime?
Yeah. I think so. I think so. Yep. So, number 9. After arriving, what steps did you take prior to locating the victim or target? Person or object. Yeah.
So do we have any more questions from this or is this it?
That's it. Why did you choose that victim or target over others? And why did you choose that victim or target over others? Yeah. That I'm telling you, it's one of those things that it could go either way.
It could.
It really could go either way. And I'm not sold one way or the other on this. Again, this is one of those things where if I had good evidence that he's guilty, then makes complete sense. You know what I mean? And I understand that he's a criminology student. Like I get that. And that is also a totally normal explanation for this. I'm not trying to suggest this proves guilt or anything. Because again, this could just be the interest of a criminology student. And what's interesting is the psychology of a killer is something that interests me. So if I was going through a class like this, these are questions I would want answered, if I had access to like dudes that have been convicted of crimes like this in prison, I would absolutely be asking stuff like this.
Mm-hmm.
So weird, not weird. It all depends on the rest of the puzzle pieces.
I feel like this could be very normal. Very, very like, I'm a criminology student. I'm trying to understand why people commit crimes. The thought process of a criminal is incredibly valuable to investigators. Like you cannot deny that. That is incredibly valuable to know their thought processes that helps you deconstruct the crime, and look at it from their point of view, which ultimately definitely is a huge benefit in helping you solve the crime.
I
Um, which is why
agree.
I thought the commission of the crime video was a good idea. Looking at somebody who has, broken into a place before, and done it successfully, and then looking at how they would get in and out of this home and commit this crime, like what would be their approach. Um, I hope the cops were try doing that, looking at it from the
Right.
criminal's perspective. I mean,
Yeah.
and what, like, where would they enter? Who was their target? Like, to be able to deduce those things, clearly you have to look at evidence, but they're also going to take into account like the criminal mind.
Yeah.
So a study like this is really beneficial. I do not think it's weird at all, but if he put himself in a place of studying criminology and psychology intentionally because he had these obsessive thoughts about harming people, then yeah, it could potentially be weird.
Yeah.
It could be for
Yep.
nefarious purposes.
And I agree with you. There's a lot of people who believe he's guilty because of the overall image of all of these things.
Well, the
And
accumulation of the evidence, like the totality of all of it,
yeah,
stacked on top of each
I
other.
think that's a good argument.
It
I
is.
really do. And if I was debating someone and I was playing the side of the prosecution, that's what I would lean into is okay, fine. You say that our cops work this backwards. You say that, we made his details fit the crime. Okay, well, you're saying that we did this on every single piece of evidence, and there's enough here where at what point does a coincidence not come into play? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because there's enough here to say, okay, there's a lot. We have a storyline. That storyline makes sense. We can track it from point A to point B to crime to point C to, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If I was the prosecution, I would absolutely be leaning on that too. But each piece of evidence, in my opinion, needs to be able to be taken out of the totality of the case and hold water and stand on its own two legs by itself to create a strong case. Otherwise, you just have a bundle of weak pieces of evidence, you know?
Yeah.
So, but yeah,
But yeah. Yeah, I mean, I
that
don't
is
know.
it.
Yeah, I can't think of much else to say about it, honestly.
Yep, that is it, my friends. That is it for it tonight. That is it for the show. And tomorrow I'm going to be doing a whole bunch of editing to try and get the new videos out. The new videos that we made are awesome. And it is back to our normal editing type, and it is back to our normal schedule with the fun editing and bubbles and things of that nature. And we should be able to have all those downloaded and ready to go tomorrow. Make sure you guys add our social medias. So I try and remember to say this every time, but we are active on every single social media. And I know Twitter's a big one, you guys, and Twitter is the one that we aren't /Thought Riot Podcast. We are twitter.com/Thought Riot Pod. I just posted the link in the chat. So if you are not connected with us on Twitter, hit that link and connect with us on there. And of course, keep an eye out for the YouTube polls, you guys. I don't think I actually looked at our poll for tonight, but I meant to. Everyone has talked about how much they like those questions to get ready for the video at night. And I keep meaning to talk about those, but let me see here. Tonight was, if Bryan Kohberger was one of the below, which one is he most likely to be? Okay. Now, he's been accused of being all of these. So number one, is Bryan Kohberger the 4chan poster, the person that wrote the 4chan posts? 4% say that's possible. Number two, is Bryan Kohberger Papa Rogers? 12%. That's the highest out of the ones where he could be that. Is Bryan Kohberger the inside looking poster? 9%. Is Bryan Kohberger all of them? 8%. And 68% voted he was none of them. If you haven't taken this poll, it is still open, and I will remember to talk about it tomorrow, not tomorrow night, but the next night. We don't stream tomorrow night. We stream Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. So, oh, you know what? I need to post the Discord. Give the rundown on Discord, yeah?
Yeah, Discord is really just, a chat. It's just a chat platform. Come in like you guys are
No
chatting right
cost.
now, no cost. It's totally free. You don't have to pay anything to join it. And you need the link to be able to join, and it's a good time. We have, the general chat where you can just, talk. And then we have the investigations chat where you can post evidence, sources, things like that. A content creator chat where you can promote creators or creators can promote themselves. And then there's private DMs. If you guys want to send us anything, Discord is a really good place to do it. Um, yeah, it's a good time over there.
It is. It is. It really, 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 really is. And if you're somebody that knows that YouTube is not reliable at reminding you, at notifying you, at letting you know when we're going live and when we're premiering a video, then my suggestion to you is to hop on Patreon, okay? Patreon, I wasn't good at it when we first created it, but I'm getting better at it, okay? I'm getting better at reminding everyone on Patreon. There is a free tier on Patreon. I just posted all of our links. So I just posted the Patreon link. I just posted Instagram. I just posted Twitter. And I just posted the Discord. And so you can join all of them. You can join one of them. But if you're looking for notifications and reliable ones, I would suggest that you join Discord and or Patreon. If you want to give more to help us get to a full-time news source, crime news source, we always appreciate people hopping on there and joining one of the levels on Patreon, but it's not a requirement. We will still talk to you all the same. You are still a very important part of this community, and we want you here, whether you can afford to help or not. So.
Yes, absolutely. Mikey, thank you so much for the gifted membership. We really appreciate that. You're so consistent with that.
I know, right at the end, like, yeah.
Bryan, a lot of people say Discord is confusing for them. It was extremely confusing for me at first.
Yeah, it was
so
for her.
if you want any help with that, you can always message me in Discord or email, and I can help try to give you a rundown and help you out, because I know it's super confusing.
Yeah,
just if you send an email, just label it Discord so I know that's what it's about. But
it was it any more confusing than everything else that confuses you?
Discord was pretty confusing, and a lot of people say that it's confusing.
Yeah, I get it. It was confusing setting up the Discord, but I was okay.
Once you get on there and get it going, it becomes more easy. You realize that, okay, all these little categories to the left are different chats, and you can click through them and read them. And I tried to
need to give people a walkthrough next live.
I tried to add descriptions to each chat too, so you know what it's for. They're at the top of it should say what it's for. We really just use the general one the most, and the ideas and feedback, Ian's shorts, investigation and cases.
We use all of them.
Yeah, not all of them
we'll
really.
Give people a rundown. We'll give people a Discord rundown next time.
The rules and laws to abide by, I do suggest you stop by and read that real quick.
Yeah.
You know, the rules and everything and the welcome.
Yeah, we love emails too. If that's your go-to, you guys, and you don't want to learn these other things, that's okay too. Any of these things are okay. My goal was just to give you guys an overabundance of ways to reach out and continue taking part and notifications, and then you can just pick your favorites. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And but Discord is a fun one, and we're hoping Patreon gets up to the level of what Discord is too, with engagement and things like that. And next time we will try and remember to do a walkthrough of Discord to give a quick rundown of just the navigation and what it's all about and everything. So yes, we appreciate all of you, every single one of you. Thank you for being you. Thank you for being here. This is the True Crime Talk Show, and you can find us on all major podcast platforms. You can find us on Spotify. You can find us on Apple. You can find us on Amazon, and you can find us on Google. Come give us a rating and a comment, and enjoy the show. And if you have any suggestions, if you have any whatever, we want to just hear from you. Anything. So reach out to us, and we do our best to respond. And yeah, thanks for being here.
Yes. Thank you for being here tonight. Appreciate all of your input as always, and have a wonderful night. We'll see you Wednesday, 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Take care.
Yes, this is your favorite hot dog, and I am out. Thought Riot Podcast, the True Crime Talk Show. Hot dog out.